So, JP.
So, Ron.
I was thinking about this the other day. In Star Wars, there's no heaven and hell or a god, right? Like, they progress beyond that.
Well, I mean, there are a couple of references to the word hell, but there doesn't appear to be any kind of, other than Jedi and Sith, there doesn't seem to be any kind of monotheistic religion.
Well, you got Jedi who die, and then they become ghosts. They don't go to heaven.
Well, they have a horrible vision of the afterlife, but where there is no self.
Okay.
Unless you are one of the ones who know the secret on how to do an Obi-Wan and appear as a Force ghost forever.
Right.
Or Qui-Gon, rather.
And I was thinking, like, okay, so they've managed to clone human beings.
Yes.
So that kind of negates a god. Kind of. Right?
No, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't see cloning as negating God as much as I do... What I see more negating the presence of God is all these other different alien life forms.
Yeah.
Like, I can't share a god with Chewbacca.
Oh, well, yeah.
You know?
No Wookiee gods.
Yeah. I'm not... and it's not a race thing. It's a... I mean, he's got a dog face.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
He's got a dog face. I'm like... You know... I don't know.
All right. Well, but what if Wookiee gods don't look like Wookiees? You know, the Ewoks gods look like C-3PO.
God, dog face.
Huh?
Dog face.
Yeah. God.
D-O-G. G-O-D.
Oh, you're saying that God is a dog.
Well, I don't know, man. Maybe the Force made me say that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay. Hold on.
Yeah.
Back up.
Okay.
All right. You're saying that just because you're a Wookiee, your god has to look like a Wookiee.
Hey, I'm no Wookiee, brother.
If you're a Jawa,
yeah,
your god has to look like a Jawa. But in Star Wars, we've already established that Ewoks have a golden god.
Mm.
They don't look like... Their god doesn't look like an Ewok at all. It looks like C-3PO.
That's right, yeah.
So, go with me on this one.
Okay.
All right.
Take me there.
They are a primitive race, right? The Ewoks, you know, they're flesh-eating natives of the Forest Endor Forest Moon of Endor.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And all of a sudden this protocol droid appears on their planet and they're like, he's a god, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm not talking about Return of the Jedi, right? Because that's kind of the second coming of a god. Right? Like they've already established that he's a god because when he shows up again, you know, when he shows up in Return of the Jedi, they already know of a golden droid as a god.
So you're saying because it's like they see all these other great things, like a big walking ATST, and like R2 floats, right?
They don't see R2 float though.
I thought they. No, that's right. That's
no.
C3, but
C-3PO floats.
But they see a bunch of other things that are as equally magical as C-3PO, but they designate him as a god.
Well,
right?
we don't know if they've seen the Empire before C-3PO.
Okay.
Right? I mean, in canon, they don't. Like, we don't know that.
Right. Okay.
Right? What I'm saying is, how do they recognize C-3PO as a god?
Right.
Right? C-3PO is just a protocol droid. He has no superhuman powers. They don't recognize the Force as a power. Because Luke uses the Force on C-3PO, and they're like, oh, C-3PO
to make
is
him float.
making him float.
Yes.
And they don't think it's the Force. They're not like, Ichuta, Force.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're not like, they don't know what that is. They just think that the C-3PO is using his godlike powers to float.
You know, right? I was just about to say that this is just further evidence that Star Wars is a godless universe. But then I remembered who created C-3PO. The Chosen One.
The Chosen One. The Maker.
Conceived of Immaculate Conception. Anakin.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I just think that, like, you get into space travel, you get into different planets, you get in, like, I just think the idea of religion
You know what, Ron?
It's just silly.
We should be putting this whole conversation in the show notes. So for the next episode, we can just open it cold with this.
Is that what we're not doing that now?
Welcome to Star Wars: Delusions of Granular.
Folks, we actually had this conversation. We were chatting back and forth one day at work about this. I believe there was a carbon monoxide leak in my office.
There might have been.
I was rambling on about this, trying to make sense. At some point, I was comparing C-3PO to the Terminator.
A couple episodes ago, we talked about how this whole show is scripted. And then we always are talking on G-Chat and stuff, and we got talking about this, and I was like, we gotta use this, Ron. We gotta, people have to know that this is real.
Right. And then you threw it into our notes, and we look at it now, and we're like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because what's funny is actually we just toned it down.
Yeah,
so the conversation
we
goes
were
about
rambling.
Twice as long.
Yeah. I, at the time, thought I was making good points. And looking at it now, I wasn't making any points.
Well, so now that you're filled with confidence in your hosts, my name is JP.
My name is Ron.
Together we form
Delusions of Granular.
God, we're getting better at that. So we're a podcast. You know, we talk about Star Wars predominantly.
That's right.
You can find all of our old podcasts at delusionsofgranular.com. That's granular.
That's right. Or you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter. And follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/swdog. On Twitter at swdog77.
Feel free to join the conversation by giving us a phone call at 651-337-9364. The number again, 651-33-SW-DOG.
Or you can always email us at swdog77@gmail.com. We will check our email regularly, and if you leave us a message, we may use it on the show.
Yeah, and hey, thanks to we've getting a lot of response lately and have some really fun little email correspondence. Once to start sharing here.
Picking up. So.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a mailbag episode soon.
That's right.
And hey, of course, if you're listening to us, you found us, but don't forget to leave us a review somewhere on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever podcasts are sold. And barring that, always find a friend who likes Star Wars, might like Star Wars, and tell them to, hey, check out these guys. Check out these guys.
Right.
Hey, listen to this.
That's right. Because honestly, I gotta say, folks, I hope you found us, because I've been looking for some new podcasts. Some of the ones I'm listening to are going stale or just, kind of not happening anymore. They're ending, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time finding new podcasts that are interesting. Folks, if you have recommendations for podcasts, shoot them my way.
Yeah.
I don't know. JP and I were talking the other day about what a good podcast is, what we think is a good podcast, and we feel like podcasts have become over commercialized. That they don't feel like they're podcasts; they feel like they're fully produced radio shows.
Oh yeah,
or they're underproduced, and it just feels like two guys that are 2, 3, 4 guys, whatever, just talking in their basement, not really making a lot of
Skype headsets.
Yeah, not really making a lot of points, not really having a theme to the show, not really having any kind of structure.
Which is also fine. It's like the old school ham radio stuff.
It's fine, but I think we at Delusions of Granular are trying to kind of walk right down the middle of that.
Right down the lower middle ground of podcasts.
So
that's really what we're shooting for.
We want to be interesting enough, but not overly produced.
We want to be too interesting.
Yeah, we don't.
Hey, you have a family. You have
right.
you have responsibilities. You can't be listening to this all the time.
At the end of the day, just turn us off, please.
Well, I think that is a rival for one of the longer show opener reads.
Yeah.
So let's.
Do you want to jump into news, or do you want to tell the folks what we're talking about tonight?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna do a little teaser. We are going to be talking about someone whose name rhymes with Obalette.
Uh-oh.
And but first, let's do some news, because there is some kind of big news this week. Not exactly Star Wars related, but
Nerd related, sure.
Twin Peaks Season 3 looks like it might not happen. David Lynch is suddenly, as of yesterday, pulled out of the negotiations. Who knew there were still negotiations when both him and Showtime have been putting up pictures of Kyle MacLachlan dressed up as Agent Cooper again. Twin Peaks, for those you don't know, is a show from 89-90. It pretty much spawned everything that would become modern television.
Sure.
Like it influenced X-Files, and by de facto Lost, Mad Men, Sopranos. They all kind of have roots going back to Twin Peaks. Very strange, very Lynchian, very David Lynch. Him pulling out of it basically means there's no reason to do it. So,
but okay, so I haven't really been following the story because I'm not as big of a Twin Peaks fan as some people. I watched it. I think I watched the first couple seasons, maybe season and a half when it was first out. Kind of got bored with it. Kind of
got to the point where you find out who killed Laura Palmer and gave up. Yeah,
I kind of rode the David Lynch, fan train for a while, and then it's just like, okay, some of this stuff doesn't make sense on purpose. That's all there is to it. But what I heard, I didn't know they actually had progressed to the point where we saw Kyle MacLachlan as, in character.
That's the worst thing.
Old Kyle MacLachlan.
That's the worst thing is that it was on, old Kyle MacLachlan. And
Kyle MacLachlan
is on David Lynch's Twitter. His last entry is showing a picture of Kyle MacLachlan with the coffee and the Agent Cooper outfit, talking about how great it's going to be to do this show. And then the next is his 4-part thing of apology of I'm pulling out of his negotiations after a year and a half. They're not giving me enough money. Fuck them. But
I heard that Showtime is continuing on anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if they're continuing on anyway, but Showtime has released statements they're going to try and make this work. Hopefully some great negotiator will get in there and give them a pile of money. Because quite frankly, I don't care if it's Twin Peaks or not. I just want to see him direct again. It's been since 2007.
Right.
And he's not getting any younger. And
maybe he'll be on for episode 9.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, right? Yeah. Finally rectify that mistake when he turned down Return of the Jedi.
That's right.
But, yeah. And in the meantime, though, I was at peace with just 2 seasons of Twin Peaks. I was at peace with this open-ended storyline. Two seasons in a movie. And as I was talking to my friend the other day, we were both kind of distraught about it. And I was like, you know what? Guess what? Today, a new episode of Mad Men's coming out. So, you know what? There's plenty of new good shows. We don't need to go to these nostalgia trips. We don't need to watch Full House again. We don't need to watch whatever the new retro TV show is. It's...
Sure.
Sometimes these things don't work out. There's plenty of new TV shows, so live long and prosper.
That's right.
Next bit of news. Marvel's releasing recolored Star Wars comics.
Yeah.
The Howard Chaykin.
The original Star Wars comics are going to be remastered. Recolored, remastered, and sanitized for your protection.
Ugh. Yeah, you kind of just dropped this like a bomb on me the other day.
Yeah, I dropped it on I totally dropped it on you because I knew I was going to get the reaction that I did get.
Yeah, about 3 paragraphs written back about
ranting
how upset I was.
How awful this is.
Here's the deal. They recolored it.
These are the original Marvel Star Wars comics from 1977.
Yeah, that's
78,
right.
78, 79.
These are drawn by Howard Chaykin. These are kind of this is the book that Howard Chaykin really became Howard Chaykin on. The art is, in my opinion, gorgeous.
Sure.
It's wonderful layouts, just really great stuff. Bleeding Cool did a side-by-side of the original pages with what we've seen in previews for the new pages. And it's quite frankly horrible. They're when they're doing recoloring things, they're adding a lot of Photoshop effects. So there's suddenly they'll start adding lens flares and light sources that don't exist. Darth Vader in the old Marvel comics was colored blue because they didn't have the technology really to do a true black.
Oh, right.
So they fixed that, made him this gray. The problem is the pages weren't designed for that, so that now things start to flatten on each other. He doesn't pop off of things. There's less contrast. Overall, it's just I'm very particular about the way I think old comics should be presented, and this is not good. I don't want to throw the colorist under the bus. Chris Sotomayor, he's a totally decent colorist. He did some work on Hulk when it was Red Hulk. Done some Deadpool stuff.
Sure.
Looks like a totally talented, totally legit colorist, but just maybe it's his editors. Maybe it's his editors who were kind of forcing, hey, make it pop more, make it more exciting, But
I gotta say, honestly, let's just go way off topic here.
Sure.
I read Hulk.
Oh, did you?
And
I did not.
I think I'm gonna throw the colorist under the bus because the coloring on that was bad too.
Well, I didn't read it. I just flipped through it.
All of Hulk's muscles the Hulk basically looked like he was made out of like he was a balloon animal.
Oh, well, I mean, Ed McGuinness's artwork.
Yeah, but the colorist didn't really help that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it definitely seems like if there's any indication, he's pretty effects driven with a lot of lens flares, gradients, and silliness.
Yeah,
so,
well,
I don't know. Just gonna say that's not my Star Wars comics. I would recommend hitting up your 50-cent bins and finding some of the old ones.
That's right.
And Ron, you want to leave some trailer talk?
Yeah, we as of today, we got some news that we got two things. We got news that at Celebration this year, Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, California, on April 16th.
Are we going to that this year?
It's around my birthday, so I'm just waiting for the present to come.
Oh, right.
So I've already,
I have my hand
took
out.
the time off, and I'm just waiting for the present to come in.
Yeah.
So no, probably not. Well, do we really need to go? Do you really ever need to go to a convention again? Because everything is either simulcast or within minutes that it's announced that San Diego Comic-Con or whatever, it's on the internet.
It's so true. And what's also weird is there's no more when I first started going to conventions as a kid, it was kind of getting towards the end of the time where you could see really important old people who have done something,
sure, and
not pay $20 for their signature.
Yeah,
where they were just accessible and you could just walk up and talk to them.
Right.
And
well, I guess I
don't know what Celebration is though.
Well, here's the thing. I follow this on a very I don't actively follow this because I'm not going to go to Anaheim and do this. I'm not I'm in my 40s. I don't need to be going to a convention in a different city to enjoy the wondrous smells that is these conventions.
Yes.
And the people that go to them.
Of course.
No offense to any of our listeners, you're excluded from this.
Yeah.
But
if you go to conventions or are smelly or both.
We all know that there's a smell from these conventions.
Well, yeah. Any gathering of
people.
Yes.
People.
Unshowered.
Yes.
People.
Anyway, there's also a Star Wars Weekends. And that's at Disneyland or Disney World or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And apparently that is, if you just pay for the price of admission, you can go right up to, your Kenny Baker, your Peter Mayhew, your who played Boba Fett.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And
Clint Eastwood, I think.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood. Yeah. And you can, basically get a picture with them, get
Really?
autographs. There's no fee at the desk, at the counter.
I find it hard to believe that there would be less lines at Disney World than...
Well, Disney World is fucking expensive.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You got families going through, and it's no, we got to go to Space Mountain. I don't have time to talk to that little man.
Yeah, the old man over there?
Yeah.
In the wheelchair?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to him.
Yeah, I guess
anyway,
that's kind of true.
We're not going to Star Wars Weekends. We're not going to Star Wars Celebration, but... we will be following the news on the internet, and we'll pretend like we are at those.
In the Theater of the Mind, for all you know, we are there.
Yeah, we're there right now, camped out.
Yes.
Anyway, we got news today that the first poster, the official poster for Force Awakens, is going to be revealed there.
Oh yeah.
Don't have any other details beyond that, other than there will be a poster.
Did you see
Probably
that?
Be on paper.
That Slash Film ran an article about that, and they showed the posters for the prequels.
Oh, yeah.
And they chose the worst posters for the prequels.
Yeah, those were bad.
And it was just it was such a snide thing, but it was That Sith, but that's what you said to me. You're like, that Sith poster.
Sith poster.
Oof, that was rough. This is the one with Anakin where his cape is flowing.
Turns into...
And it's kind of turning
like
into
a Spawn cape that turns into Vader's helmet. But not really.
That's the worst.
It's like Vader's melted helmet.
That was the worst. Yeah.
So,
How did that happen?
We're probably going to get the poster for The Force Awakens, as well as a trailer, which I think we're all kind of...
We're due.
Yeah, I mean, we all assume that it's going to happen. JJ and Kathleen Kennedy are going to be there. They're going to have something. A couple weeks after that, Avengers comes out. So if not at Celebration, then on Avengers. It's at this point, it's inevitable.
We're going to see some Star Wars.
Right. So, of course, making StarWars.net, they've already, broke what we're going to see in this trailer. And I like how this is not a teaser trailer. This is the trailer, right?
Yeah, it's a minute and 40, minute and 30?
Minute and 50.
Oh,
minute and 50, right?
Almost a pop song.
But, again, all they're doing is, listing, things that we'll see in it. And... still no idea of storyline. You get a teaser. No, I know, but the way this works is you get a teaser, and the teaser is there to tease. Quick glimpses of characters. No plot, no idea of plot. But the trailer comes out. That should give you an idea of what the plot is. Back, in nowadays, right?
I don't know. Hold on. Before you go any further, in the teaser for... you're a Gen 1 fan. Trailer for Return of the Jedi. Did you know what was going to happen then? Did I give you a rundown?
I'm not talking about, 25 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about now. A teaser for Age of Ultron. You basically know exactly what's going to happen in that movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know how the characters of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch fit in.
Oh, I do.
Do you? I don't know. That I'm not so concerned with. For me, I was just shocked at my reaction to what they said was going to be in the trailer.
Yeah, I'm not going to read them out loud because...
You feel like it's too...
Well, this is all hearsay at this point.
Well,
making StarWars.net, they're claiming, and they may be right, I don't know, I don't choose to look back on what they did predict correctly and what they didn't, but they said that they broke the teaser trailer.
Yeah.
Right. So now they're saying that they have a kind of a definitive shot listing of what's going to be in this trailer.
So without going through them all,
let's not go through them all. But what do you have a beef with?
I don't have a beef. I don't have a beef at all. I'm not shocked at the trailer. I'm shocked at myself. My own reaction.
What's your beef with yourself?
All of the things they listed. The number one thing I cared about was they say Luke's not going to be in it, number one.
Right.
But they say that Han and Leia will. And everything else I was like, I don't care. It's all about Han and Leia right now. That's all I want to see now is Han and Leia.
Well, okay.
And I know, and it's funny because on the lead up to this, we've been talking about it, and it's like, oh, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, who wants to see that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the fan gut reaction was just like, I want to see Han and Leia. That's all I want to see. Show me Han and Leia. I can't wait to see those people.
All right. I'm not going to list this list, but the first item on the second item on the list. The first item is basically telling us how long it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The second item on the list is Han, Leia, R2, and 3PO. It's listed as that. Nothing about what they're doing.
Yep.
Nothing. Doesn't say that they're together. Doesn't say they're apart. Doesn't say they're all in the one scene. Doesn't even say if that's the first scene in the trailer.
It's a 2-second shot of them on their knees getting capped in the back of the head. Cops to a party.
3PO does it.
Yeah.
Call me Goldenrod again. Bam.
Yeah. This is for all the shitty things I've had to do.
But let's just say that's the first shot of the trailer. That's gonna distract. That's distracting.
What do you mean distracting?
These people are old.
Well, yeah,
Like,
but like that's
not-
the whole thing, Ron. Is I have to know what they look like now. I have to know how much time has passed visually in this world, and I am fucking dying to know. I can't wait. I want to see. Here's the thing. I found myself just like I don't even know what else is on the list because I honestly didn't read it all. I got to the Han and Leia and I saw no Luke, and all I found myself thinking was, "What's Han gonna wear? Is he gonna be wearing that dumb duster?"
Like that's the thing. Is like even though we have not seen any of these actors in costume, we have at least seen Mark Hamill with facial hair.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In a way, that is part of his costume.
Oh, for sure. Well,
Right?
yeah, he's talked about it. He doesn't like facial hair.
Right. So
It's very clean.
smooth.
Yes.
So, in a way, we've seen a glimpse of Luke's costume.
Yes.
We have not seen a glimpse of Han or Leia's costume. Now, we've seen supposed drawings, some fan art. We've seen sketches. We've seen, people's delusions of what this is going to be. But
and we've just seen them.
And we've seen
in bad lighting.
we've seen Harrison. We've seen his plane crash. We've seen his leg in a cast.
Do you get the feeling that Harrison's actually I always thought he was kind of a milquetoasty man, but he seems like
Daredevil?
kind of a fucking wants to die, crazy man.
Maybe
I don't
know. I feel like Harrison Ford has gone on to make tons of movies. I feel like I kind of know Mark Hamill's personality better than I do Harrison Ford.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, totally.
But
that's very good insight.
I mean, we haven't really. I don't know if we've even seen a modern day Carrie Fisher.
I
don't know.
You mean on film in good lighting?
Well, I mean, I don't know when we've seen her.
Yeah,
we've seen her looking old. We've seen her looking, with some weight on her. We've seen her not with some weight on her. I couldn't tell you when these photos are taken. There's no
all the past 20 years of photos could have been any of those times.
Yeah, right.
I agree.
Right.
I agree
So
with that.
I don't know. I look forward to the trailer. I hope that it's good.
I feel like I'm going to put this out there right now just to mark it. I feel like Carrie Fisher is going to surprise you in the film. I think she's going to surprise you about the emotional response you'll get.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay.
All right. We're not getting into details on this because, in a couple of weeks, hopefully, we'll all have seen this and we'll dissect it then.
Yeah, at length. We're already almost 27 minutes.
I know we haven't even talked about what we're doing.
What are we talking about?
What are we talking
tonight?
about? You mentioned someone by the name of Boba Fett. Who is he? Tell me more about him.
This is a topic that he's got a helmet, and that's it. But pretty much. This is a topic that we have racked our brains since
a long time coming.
Yeah, since the first 10 episodes, we've been angling to get a Boba Fett episode going. But where do you start? How do you do it? What is it? What is there to grab onto?
Good question.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Ron, you came up with, because I have specifically been angling for a Boba Fett episode since episode 3, I think.
Yeah, I mean...
But it was really about how to do it.
Yes.
And you nailed it. For an opening salvo.
Yes. We were basically just going to dissect his movie lines and do an entire episode just on his four lines of dialogue.
I mean, it really tells you a lot. I mean, it's very
telling.
Did you know that his lines actually make a haiku?
I heard that you can tweet all of his lines in one tweet.
Awesome.
No.
That would be the most popular tweet in all of Twitter.
Yeah, right. I would tweet that. I would retweet that.
Oh, I'd tweet that. No, what we're going to do tonight is instead, Dark Horse put out we've talked about these fantastic omnibuses many, many times.
Yes.
With receiving no money from Dark Horse for it.
Nope.
But we are fascinated by this omnibus format. And, Ron, we picked up a couple copies of the Boba Fett omnibus.
That's right, the Boba Fett omnibus, which is actually a collection of the Dark Horse Boba Fett comics.
Yeah, there's 11 different series in here. And a couple of those are one-shots.
Yeah.
One's a miniseries.
I think there's actually 9 actual story arcs, but for some reason they're breaking up those last 3.
Yeah, and
even though they're kind of a continuation of them.
Those all those Cam Kennedy ones.
Yeah. So I think there's 9 story arcs altogether.
Yep.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, there's a ton of these omnibuses. Go to your local comic book store. I'm sure you can pick up any of these. This one
or library
was actually our library,
hey.
or wherever you get your comic books.
Hey, I don't judge.
Yeah.
So
anyway, this is actually the 12th omnibus in a collection of. I think they're on 35 of these things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of content.
It's a goddamn library.
Yeah, so this one basically is just all about Boba Fett. It came out in March 24th, 2010. And it collects, like we said, it collects 9 story arcs.
It's 450 pages.
Yeah, it's actually almost 500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were going to do this last week, and then we started getting kind of stressed out about it. It's like, I don't know if I can do this all in a week, blah, blah, blah. So we split it up. Ron's going to cover the first half. I will play the part of the listener and add supplemental color commentary and questions.
Right.
And then we'll switch off.
And I think that this is our way of tackling this, obviously a fan favorite character.
We needed to find a gateway. We needed our own way, because he's a fan favorite and he's been talked about significantly.
Right. And I think that by no means will this be a definitive episode about Boba Fett. I think that we'll probably do some later episodes on Fett when we kind of find another into talking about the character.
I'm almost tempted to call this a volume 1.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's weird, because he really is maybe, the second, third most popular character of the series?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Even though, and he's such a trademarkable icon.
Right.
Even though, what is he? It's all
4
pixie
lines
dust.
and a helmet.
Yeah.
4 lines and a helmet. That's
not counting the Clone Wars.
Well, yes.
Of course.
Right, which we're strictly talking, so... All right. So
the other things will come up. I think we shouldn't restrict ourselves.
No, right.
But.
I mean, I threw out an idea that we would do a month of Fett, where we did 4 Fett episodes in a row. But I think that would just I don't think we could research that all in 1 month, and B, I think it would we'd burn ourselves out on Fett as well as the audience. So we'll break it up. We'll talk about Fett again in the future. But now we're just focusing on these comics.
Yep.
And to give you a time frame for these comics, this is adult Fett.
Yep.
This is adult Boba. I think it starts. The first arc starts about 3 years before the Battle of Yavin.
And all the stuff in mine was 5 to 10 years.
Okay. So once again, this is definitely we're in EU territory, so none of this counts anymore.
No, yeah.
Right.
And some of this references stuff that hasn't counted in a long time.
Yeah.
And some of it gets more confusing in a corkscrew way, references things that aren't canon even from before this, that were later pulled in by Dave Filoni into the Clone Wars.
Yeah, good old Dave pulling in the EU.
So get ready for a wild ride, folks.
Right.
Let's just jump right into it.
All right, let's just jump in. So this first arc is called Enemy of the Empire. Boba Fett, Enemy of the Empire. This was written by John Wagner. The artist was Ian Gibson, and this was a fun story. Basically, Vader, an Imperial officer, kind of high ranking, they're battling these creatures. I believe it's the Ikari.
Yes.
Okay, and they're these native blue-skinned beasts, and they're kind of fighting them in the jungle, and they're these Ikari. You can't kill them. Right? They're almost impossible to kill. You cut off their arm, the arm still keeps attacking you. It has a brain of its own, right? So the only way to really kill them is you gotta, really destroy the head.
Okay.
Okay, you can cut off the head's still gonna live. Okay?
But you gotta kill the brain.
You gotta kill the brain. So, and they also can predict the future accurately.
Cool.
Right? So it's just one of their powers.
John Wagner is a 2000 AD writer.
Okay.
One of the creators of Judge Dredd, actually. So he is well versed in creating funky, weird, mutant, alien, sci-fi creatures that have
Interesting.
cool plot device powers.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, this commanding officer of the Imperial Army, he goes AWOL, right? Vader wants him back. Okay? Vader wants him back, but not only does Vader want him back, but what he wants him for is what he has in his possession, which is a basket. And the basket has something in it, the MacGuffin.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right? Hires Boba Fett, of course, because, who are you going to hire? Who are you going to call?
Yeah.
Boba Fett.
When you got to get some shit done,
Yeah.
And money's not an option, call Boba Fett.
Right.
Straight up. That's the moral of the story.
Hires Boba Fett to go track down this guy. Doesn't care if, he brings back the guy alive, but bring back this casket, this box, this basket, what have you. Don't look inside it. You can't look inside it, but you got to bring it back. Okay?
Yeah.
Vader also then hires another group of kind of hooligans to track Boba Fett. Okay?
Okay.
So now there's, kind of the race is on to find this, it's I will say this. This first story is really for a Boba Fett omnibus. As we go through the rest of these stories, this one is very heavy Boba Fett, right? Like, Boba Fett is truly a main character in this, okay? Yeah. You actually go on, you follow the storyline almost through Boba Fett's eyes. Okay?
Gotcha.
Like, he's going on this mystery to track down this Imperial, right? Where was this Imperial last? Oh, he goes to this planet. He hops to this planet, tracks down, what ship he might have, stowed away on.
Yeah.
Okay, where did that ship go? Okay, he goes to that planet. Okay, where did he go from there? Oh, he ran into this. Oh, he gets his face tattooed. So now he's changed his disguise.
And I think it's important to note how they treat Fett in this series, in this miniseries, because it's a miniseries, right? Or is it a one-shot? Oh, it's a one-shot.
I think, no, it's like
it
3 issues.
Seemed long.
Yeah,
I didn't read this one, but I flipped through it.
It's like 3 issues.
But he...
3 regular issues.
Right,
yeah.
Because the way they portray Fett throughout this book, it's different writers.
Yep.
So it's slightly different portrayals, and sometimes there's inner monologue, like an inner dialogue happening, and sometimes not. Sometimes he's almost like a force of nature.
That's right.
So it fits very well now into Legends canon.
Yes.
In terms of it
yes.
seems very legendary.
Right. So he tracks down this character. Oh, well, this character is hiding out with a bunch of monks, the monks of the pessimistic order or something, where all they care about is like doom and gloom.
It's a John Wagner comic, so it's got a big satirical vibe.
Yeah. So, this one and the next storyline, they do feel very comic booky. There's a lot of I would say this. The first 2 story arcs in this omnibus.
I love this art.
The art's great. It's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem throughout the entire omnibus with the arcs. I like the way they did Boba Fett in this one. His armor is very. It looks very pockmarked.
And that artist Ian Gibson is he's another 2000 AD artist, famous for Judge Dredd and Robo-Busters.
Okay.
It's a great series, and he's very well represented here, especially with the armored characters. And I enjoyed his portrayal of Darth Vader, because I would say this is almost as much a Vader book as it is a Boba book.
Yes.
He does a very kind of pronounced, big-eyed Marvel style kind of Vader.
It's a Vader book. It's also very much the Imperial that went AWOL. It's very much his book as well.
Oh, okay.
And it's also very much the Ikari, this force or this future predicting being, because the head Ikari, this woman, this very beautiful woman, she had her head cut off, and she is actually her head is in the basket that Vader wants back, and Vader wants it because she can predict the future. Okay.
Right.
So of course we are now into we're definitely in the EU universe or Legends universe where Vader would want this supernatural power, from this woman's head, because the Force can't predict the future. But we've seen in the movies, we've seen in the prequels that not predict the future, but you can see the future.
Well, I think
future.
I think when you're a Sith, and I'm basing this off some other stuff I've read, which we'll probably talk about soon. Like when you're a Jedi, the Force works with you, kind of, so it gives you glimpses to help you.
Right.
And when you're a Sith, like you're kind of being forceful with the Force.
Sure.
You're kind of like, be like, give me what I want.
Right.
And so I could imagine he's kind of cut off from like that kind of future vision stuff.
Well, and also the Emperor wants this. As we find out, like Vader is fighting for, basically hired Fett, ends up fighting Fett at the end of this for.
Which was a big selling point for this book.
It was great. They're fighting in kind of this planet where the monks live, and there's a lot of lava and cliffs, and they're fighting, and Vader and Boba Fett are basically on this ledge, and Vader gets the upper hand, but Boba Fett threatens to destroy the basket, and he throws it kind of down this cavern, and Vader has to let Boba Fett go in order to save the precious basket with the head in it. So Boba Fett manages to get away. Vader gets the head. Also the woman's head. Her hair is like it's got beads in it, like jewels, which are worth like an entire fortune. So just cutting one of her strands of hair off with all these jewels in it is worth a fortune. So of course Boba Fett does that, so he gets paid. Right,
and the illustrations, like the cover illustrations, that was how they kind of sold the book.
Yeah, because it's a Vader versus Fett book.
Yeah, I remember wanting to read it because it looked like a Vader versus Fett book, which is something that we all want, and
it totally is.
But you can't have, and it's not really that, ultimately.
And ultimately, this takes place 3 years before the Battle of Yavin, so.
What are you going to do?
Before they actually meet an Empire. Okay.
But, so in terms of the book, it has kind of that corkscrew turn at the end. I keep saying corkscrew turn tonight. It kind of has that little twist.
Thank
you. Yes. It has that little twist at the end where it's, he ultimately gets paid because he cheated him out by taking the beaded hair.
Yeah, he takes them the beaded hair. Also, the twist is the Emperor really wants the prize, not Vader, and Vader won't let him have it, so he ends up, slicing the head in half, so the Emperor doesn't get it.
A little wisdom of Solomon.
Yeah, you can't. Nice. I can't have it, so neither can you.
Vader does that?
Yeah, Vader does that.
That's weird.
Yeah.
This is also, this book came out. I'm not 100% sure of this, but I believe this miniseries came out either right before Attack of the Clones, before Phantom Menace. It came out before we knew more about Fett.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. We didn't do the research of when these actual comics came out, just when the omnibus came out. So this is we're definitely in territory before the prequels.
Yeah, I looked it up before just to make sure that Django. I don't think any of these stories came out, except for maybe the next two, came out when we knew that Django was a thing.
Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, I would rate this. I would rate this arc as. I would give it a good 3.5 out of 5 Boba Fett's.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it looked like about 4 to 5 Mandalores.
Like the art is fun. There's a lot of. Boba Fett goes on a lot of side missions searching for this, so there's a lot of interesting characters brought into this. The tattoo artist is fun. The monks are fun. The art is fun. It's a very clear story. Very easy to grasp what's going on quickly.
Right. Oh, sorry. Just to I had our research department look it up for us, and actually that came out in 1999, January through April. So right before Phantom Menace.
Right before Phantom.
So and it feels like a prequel book.
Yeah. So I recommend this one. So yeah, let's
Just keep moving on.
just keep going, keep jumping in.
Yeah.
So the second one.
We'll have deeper insights as we go.
Yeah, second one is called Underworld, the Yavin Basilica. Okay.
Okay.
All right. This one. You know, I read this omnibus once, and then I reread parts of it for the show, just to refresh my memory on this. I remember reading this first arc before and thinking, wow, all of this is really ludicrous, but fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's basically a scavenger hunt book with 3 teams of scavengers. You have IG-88, Dengar, and Bosk as one team. You have Zuckus for LOM or for LOM. I don't know how fans pronounce that.
Forlom. That's how I
always thought it was
it.
Forlom.
I'm going Forlom.
And a new character by the name of Sardu Salo. Sardu Salo. That's team number 2. And then team number 3 is Han and Chewie. And basically they're hired by these 3 huts who are placing a bet to find the Yavin Basilica. And the Yavin Basilica is basically this ancient artifact that has long been rumored to be a myth almost. But we have it's quickly established that there's proof that it actually exists, and the huts want to find it.
A lot of these stories kind of base around that. It's like there's a thing, you
Yeah,
gotta get it.
There's a thing,
You gotta get it. The huts are involved.
The huts are involved.
It's either the
yes.
huts or the Empire
Yes.
or hiring these people.
Right.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about this is, this is probably the longest story arc in the book. I think it's like 5 or 6 issues long.
Yep.
Right? And it's also the least Boba Fett centric. Like, Boba Fett is hardly in this book.
Well, it's not actually listed on the Wikipedia as a Boba Fett book.
It's not really a Boba Fett book.
It's Star Wars Underworld. It doesn't say Boba Fett in the title anywhere. It's written by Mike Kennedy, which is slightly misleading when you look at the thing that says Star Wars. It says Kennedy. It just says Kennedy.
It just says Kennedy.
So you're naturally like, oh, Cam Kennedy, Star Wars,
right.
must buy.
Yeah, right.
But no, I thought Carlos Meglia did the artwork, and I am not familiar with him.
No.
I'm going to look him up here as we talk, but
sure.
he it's very cartoony. It's somewhat,
very cartoony.
I would say somewhat in the line of what's that comic book we like? Chew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of in that vein.
Yes. I would be remiss if I did not mention 2 of the other characters wrapped up in this whole storyline. Lando gets roped into this. Mm-hmm. He places a bet in a sabacc game that he can't afford, and one of the hut's employees kind of bails him out, and by bailing him out, he's basically brought into the hunt for this basilica as well, and our good friend Greedo.
Oh, really? Greedo makes a player. I didn't know
Greedo
that.
is a big player in this because he basically is a stowaway.
What era is this story in again?
This is
because this is like pre-movies, right?
Yeah, it's pre-movies. Okay,
that's the weird thing about this omnibus too. Is it both jumbles
It
up
straddles.
when the books came out,
Yes.
and the timeline.
Yes.
Because this is before A New Hope, right?
Yes, this would be obviously because Greedo died in A New Hope.
Well, duh, yeah. Of course.
So this is
Well, it's the EU, anything goes.
Right.
He could have been Greedo with 2 O's.
Yeah. No, this is this of all of the story arcs in this omnibus, this one's played for laughs. Because you have Han and Chewie going, like, all these 3 teams of scoundrels are going after this MacGuffin. Right? And there's a lot of double crosses going on. There's a lot of plot twists going on. There's a lot, we find out that Boba Fett was hired, but he's not hired to kill Han. He's hired to protect Han. We find out, throughout the entire book that there's Jawas around, and the characters keep making reference to the fact that there's an awful lot of these pesky Jawas all over the place. So, like, have you noticed that? And the Jawas are actually, like, kind of, spies for one of the characters.
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole underwater scene where, Han and Lando and another new character is brought into this. One of Jabba's dancers by the name of Moffat is all part of this. And it's basically to track down this artifact that has a mythical history, right? We don't even know if this Yavin Basilica exists. And if it exists, like, there's characters, like, already in the works of, like, when I find it, I'm going to give it not to the Hutts, but these other people who want it, and they're going to make a forgery so that we can give it to the Hutts. So there's a lot of, plot twists throughout this entire book. A lot of action throughout, like, I think they go to, like,
it's a very kinetic
5 different planets in this. There's a lot of all things, references to, like, Indiana Jones because they're on a treasure hunt. So there's, Indiana Jones, like, plot threads throughout this.
That's also throughout the Boba Fett comics I've read.
Yeah.
It's a very kinetic art style. I think it's very readable.
Yeah.
I just looked up Carlos Mengele. He actually died in 2008 at age 50.
That's too
but
bad. He
actually had a very storied career in comics. He's an Argentinian artist, and he's completely legit. Like, just looking at some of his other work, I definitely encourage any of our listeners to go check out his stuff. And this is really well drawn, but I gotta say, something about it turned me off when I was looking at it, and I think it might have gone back to the coloring.
The coloring's a little vibrating.
It's a little
vibrant in a bad way. I mean,
yeah, it's not amateur at all.
No, right?
But it's not. It feels like, well, you know what? Honestly, it feels like computer coloring of the time.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
This comic came out, I believe, in 2006.
Okay.
So,
I'll say this: I enjoyed the book when I first read it. It's a little long in the tooth going through it again. The story goes on it's a little long. It could have been a little shorter. There's one too many double crosses going on in it.
And it reminded me a little bit. This was very much of the era. It reminded me a little bit of continuity is not such a deal here.
Yeah,
it's not such a serious story. It's just a fun little silly,
silly story. Yeah,
it reminds me of those T-shirts the guys wear. Those Han Shot First T-shirts. Yeah.
Sure.
Kind of dad core.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun. I'll give it 3 Fets, 3 Mandalores.
Yeah, 3 slaves, 3 slave ones.
3 slave ones. Yes.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's move on then.
All right. So the next one is our third arc in this, and this is I believe this is a one-shot.
Sacrifice. You got to. I didn't realize you have a story with Cam Kennedy artwork.
I do have a story with Cam Kennedy art. I was surprised by this because I knew Cam Kennedy did a lot of these stories in this omnibus, but I didn't realize that so early on there was a Cam Kennedy one. I thought it was kind of saved up to the end.
Cam Kennedy, who we gushed about for the Dark Empire.
That's right, Dark Empire. Yes. I'll say this: him. I always think that Cam Kennedy is a her.
No, very much a man.
Yeah, he. His.
Oh, this is late
coloring,
Kennedy.
Yeah, the coloring makes a big difference in this.
Yeah,
he's not as himself. Yeah, it's not as great with a different colorist. It's definitely the Cam Kennedy artwork that we know, but the color is not making it as epic. And overall, I did not think it was a very epic story. It was the tale of 2 brothers on different sides of the war, and Boba Fett is hired by one of the brothers to go after the other brother. And honestly, it didn't leave a huge impression on me. It was a fine story, and the Cam Kennedy, pencils are still fabulous. Whether it's early in his career or late in his career, they're still fun.
Yeah, he still has a great concept of shape. That's really his. In my opinion, that's kind of his gift: is color and shape for him.
But I don't know. I just didn't really. I was glossing over this, reading this one. I'll give it 2 carbonites.
2 carbonite. Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. 2 disintegrations. So Overkill. Yeah, I haven't read that one. That one actually came out around 2006.
Wait, which one are you on?
Overkill.
Nope, Wreckage.
Oh, Wreckage. Sorry.
Wreckage. Okay, so Wreckage is another one-shot.
You're talking about Salvage?
Nope, Salvage is different.
Oh, that's because I started with Salvage.
Yes, you started with Salvage. I'm on Wreckage.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't have Wreckage on my list here.
Part 4 is the fourth arc in this is Wreckage. Okay. Now you have the comic open. Can you like flip to the beginning of that? Because I don't have the credits for who did Wreckage.
Okay. Yeah. Give me 2 seconds.
All right. So Wreckage is, I would say Wreckage. There you go. Is probably one of my favorites of this entire omnibus.
Yeah. The writer is Ron Mars, who has a deep background in Green Lantern. He was the guy who gave us Kyle Rayner.
All right.
He did that entire year's worth of run on Kyle Rayner when he first came out.
Oh.
Art by Adriana Milo, who I do not know.
Okay.
But this looks like more modern Dark Horse Star Wars fare.
Yes.
The artwork. This is like the level I expect from Dark Horse stuff.
Yeah. It starts out kind of, you have 2 TIE fighter pilots in their ties talking to one another. They're a little bit bored. It almost seems like it's going to be one of those comic-y issues.
Yeah.
Kind of funny, jokey kind of thing.
Sure.
And this is a quick read. There's not a lot of dialogue because it's very, very Boba Fett centric, which was nice because Yavin Basilica was very... Boba Fett was like... I mean, he was such a minor part of it. But Wreckage, you basically are seeing Boba Fett kind of hunting down a recording in a wrecked Imperial ship, a Star Destroyer of some sort, okay?
Okay.
And he's finding it, he brings it to the Imperial that hired him.
Yeah.
The Imperial, it'll throw you off a little bit because very heavily modeled in looks on Peter Cushing.
Uh-huh.
Right, but it's not Tarkin, even though it looks very much like Tarkin.
Really? That's not Tarkin. 'Cause I was flipping through, I was like, oh, cool, Tarkin showed up.
It's not Tarkin, right? And it throws you off a little bit, but I'll say this.
Yeah.
The story, the twist of this book more than makes up for the fact that they're kind of, modeling the character after Peter Cushing. Because Boba Fett retrieves this recording, and the recording is basically of this Imperial's wife or lover or girlfriend. I don't think it's ever really said who she is.
Uh-huh. And
it's basically she's dead, and she's recording her last message to him saying that she'll always love him, and he's very grateful that Boba Fett has retrieved this message to him, and Boba Fett is like, okay, well, that's going to be blah blah blah, this amount of money. And this Imperial, he's like, I don't have that much. I can't pay you that. And Boba Fett is like, well, the price is death if you can't pay me. And he goes, well, yes. And he
Boba kills him?
Yeah. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like, he wanted to retrieve this recording of his wife who's dead. He hires Boba Fett, who he knows he can't pay, so he's going to die so that he can get the recording back and
be joined with his wife.
Wow. It's really kind of a touching story.
Ron Mars is an underrated writer.
Yeah, I was very, very much impressed with this. I give this a solid 4.5 stars. Four and a half. We're going to give it 4.5 Cloud Cities.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How many Sarlacc pits?
Oh.
So this is such a funky series because this omnibus.
Yeah.
Because it's jumbling the timelines, jumbling everything. This is actually from issue 28 of Star Wars Empire.
Yeah, this was Star Wars Empire, I believe, was kind of the main run of Star Wars at a certain point.
This is in 2004, so
Yeah.
during this point, I believe there was 3 Star Wars titles going.
Okay.
This is, don't quote me on this, folks. This is Star Wars Empire, Star Wars Rebels, and Star Wars Infinities, maybe. There was a point where there was
No, Infinities was a short run. That didn't go long.
At some point, we'll do a full Dark Horse episode, and we will clear this whole matter up. But
Empire, I believe...
There was definitely at least 2, an Empire and a Rebels, I think.
I'll say this...
Or a Republic, perhaps.
Maybe. I'll say this about Empire.
Yeah.
I believe that... what's his name? Who wrote Watchmen?
Yeah. Alan Moore?
Alan Moore.
Yeah.
He wrote some of the issues for Empire.
Hard to believe.
Yeah, rumor has it, I haven't tracked these down yet, but rumor has it that there are some, was it Alan Moore?
No. I know what you're thinking of. He wrote some, I believe what you're thinking is he wrote some UK Star Wars Empire comics.
I don't believe so.
Well, I think that we have a future episode coming up involving 2 different topics. Perhaps an episode on UK comics and perhaps an episode on Dark Horse comics.
Right. Or it's just an episode of Ron and JP arguing over comic artists and what they've done.
Could be that. Right after this episode, we have to come up with a whole new block of episodes. We're kind of brainstorming on the fly.
That's right.
But, also, the cover artists, by the way, we can't keep overlooking these cover artists because they really do sell these books.
Yes.
Tom Lee Edwards is the cover on this, and it just looks fantastic.
It's
so easy. I don't want to say it's easy, but it doesn't feel easy to do these like awesome Boba Fett covers.
Yeah.
It's
make Boba Fett look cool.
Yeah, it's like no problem. Here's the helmet.
Right. Yeah. So I highly. It's the 4th story arc in the omnibus. It's known outside of the omnibus as Star Wars Empire 28 Wreckage. I really liked it. It was very moving. I thought it was a very nice story to have Boba Fett involved in.
I find a lot with these stories, some of these Star Wars one shots and stuff. They get these really great guys who aren't an Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, who are these big names. Like these great mid-level dudes who are just super solid storytellers. Mm-hmm. Like John Ostrander shows up later, Ron Mars here, and they knock it out of the park because that's what they do, And
sure.
It's kind of fun to see those guys here's my take on Boba Fett. Boom.
Right. Yeah. So, one of the things I wanted to kind of mention, since we're almost at the halfway point of our story arcs here.
Yeah.
But the through line that I noticed here, and take note, future writers who may be doing the Boba Fett movie.
The Boba Fett. No shit. I was going to say Boba Fett books, but I was like, no, you're right. We're in a world where we're going to get a Boba Fett movie,
right? So take note. Pick up the omnibus of Boba Fett, because there's a through line throughout almost all of these books.
Yeah.
That you were joking before we were talking about Boba Fett. The actor being under the helmet is Clint Eastwood, but it is really true. The way to handle a good Boba Fett story is to kind of handle it like the Sergio Leone westerns, where you're none of these stories in this book do you get the backstory of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You go into this omnibus knowing what you know about Boba Fett.
Which is nothing.
Right. Right.
Other than he looks cool.
Other than, if you haven't watched the Clone Wars.
And he may or may not like to disintegrate people, despite the fact that we've never seen him do that either in the movies or the EU.
Yeah, right.
He never disintegrates anybody.
Right. But,
why?
He does.
It's weird, though, right?
No, but he does.
But it's weird because it's when did he get the reputation for disintegrations?
Well, later on in this.
Okay.
He does disintegrate someone.
Okay.
But
But the way to do it
the
is
third line is
yeah.
like, you know, you come out of this omnibus, you still don't know the backstory of Boba Fett. Like, okay, so the prequels and the Clone Wars tried to give you the story of young Boba Fett, right? And that's fine. Like, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it for what it was. There's also a rumor out that, you know, the Boba Fett that we know in the prequels and in the Clone Wars is not the same Boba Fett that we know in the original trilogy. That somebody has claimed the Boba Fett armor, and it is not Boba Fett, but he's taking that name. So it's a different character.
Do you know how much interest I have in that? Zero. Zero.
Yes, that feels like original trilogy fan retconning the prequels.
That seems like a big fuck you.
Yeah.
To everyone.
Right.
So I say no.
Right. That's fine.
My Boba Fett.
My Boba Fett is.
Do I like the fact that my Boba Fett A went down in the Sarlacc pit like a bitch, B cried like a bitch with his decapitated father's head.
He didn't cry. He just knelt there.
Ugh,
no crying. There's no crying in Geonosis.
Right. Yeah, there's no crying in Geonosis. But yeah, I don't necessarily like the background of the character.
Yeah.
But it's like,
but that's what we got.
That's who he is.
So I like the background of the character in the Clone Wars. They established it. They
made it work. It works. I love it. It's awesome.
I liked it.
Oh, and we'll talk more about that in a bit.
All right, let's get through Overkill, which is the fifth story arc in this. Because
is that another cartoony one? I don't know if I spotted that one.
I'll say this: I enjoyed it, but it's not very memorable. That's it.
Oh,
right
this
there.
one, yeah. This
right
is very. This looks a lot like the guy from Chew.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, more so than the other guy.
Yeah.
That was
I
kind
enjoyed
of a bad
the art.
comparison.
I enjoyed the art. Although, again,
the coloring works better for me.
I did not.
Yeah, it's not a great Boba.
It's not a great Boba. Although I have issues with the Cam Kennedy Boba as well, but whatever.
I'll cover those.
Yeah,
in just a moment.
I have issues with the Cam Kennedy one. But this one, I don't know. The storyline, basically, there's kind of a. I don't know. Yeah, that one right there, that hero shot of Boba Fett. I'm like, I don't know what's going on there.
Art by Francesco Ruz Velasco.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, this is a time when Dark Horse was reaching out.
Whenever I hear a name like that, I'm like, oh yeah, did Spider-Man. I'm like, I don't know.
Periodically, comic books have to reach out to Argentina artists and stuff.
Because they know how to draw Spider-Man.
Well, because they, what's weird is apparently they work a little cheaper and they draw really fucking good. They hit deadlines.
Well, all right, sidetrack here because I don't really have a lot to say about the story arc. It was fine. I didn't find it very memorable. But I want to sidetrack us here.
Okay.
Superheroes.
Yeah.
Superheroes wear skin-tight, outfits.
Unstable molecules. Huh.
No. They wear skin-tight outfits for a very good reason because basically comic book artists are just drawing the male anatomy naked.
They're drawing fast, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they're I mean, like, there is no fabric. The reason the movies never look right, and they never will look right, is because Captain America will never actually look like Captain America in film, because there is no such fabric that goes from a helmet to a chain mail spandex thing. It doesn't exist.
Right.
They're just color and human form, and that's it. Yeah.
Right. So I bring this up because Boba Fett is very much not he's very much wearing fabric. He's very much wearing armor. He's much not just a naked figure.
But he's also just purely based on shape, also. Like, that's what makes him so great, is he's such a design.
But there's, there's a lot of wrinkles in the part of his...
Doesn't have to be.
Character... Well, we're looking at cover art.
Well, we're looking at Tim Bradstreet art.
Yeah.
So that's a cheat.
But I just wonder, is like Boba Fett fun to draw, or is he like a slog because it's like, oh my god, I can't draw naked male figure
I
can
speak to experience.
He's fun to draw.
He's fun to draw because he's just shapes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the thing. He's just a design character. He's just got these triangles on his shoulders. He's got this cool, weird little T shape on his head. There's no facial expression. He's just pure, and he can do anything. He's got a rocket pack. So
that is the thing. Like
the physicality of the character.
Like, I mean, I asked that question very, like, that was just a stupid question because of course he's fun to draw. Like, there's a reason why he's such a popular character.
But one of the things is, who's not fun to draw? R2-D2. Incredibly hard to draw.
True.
Like, R2-D2's hard to draw. Darth Vader's shockingly hard to draw. Like, drawing Darth Vader's mask and drawing R2-D2 are, like, pretty difficult. Like, I've jumped into them both, like, in a half. Okay, well, I'm going to have a nice relaxing drawing for myself.
Yeah, right.
And then you're like,
right.
And it's like 3 hours later, you're like, Jesus.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, Boba Fett's mask is. I've drawn Boba Fett's mask. It is. I guess. I mean, I have a very simplistic approach to my drawing, so I was a little bit bored by just drawing his mask. I draw things very symmetrical, so I was just like, okay. Whereas I found a little bit of challenge in Vader's mask.
Because it's hard to figure out where the planes are. Where it's like, whoa.
That's right. Well, Vader's mask it becomes much more fun to draw when you're like, oh, well, just throw in shadow here, because then I don't have to, like, actually connect the dots.
Yeah. Maybe it's just in shadow. It's more a silhouette thing.
Yeah, once you start throwing in shadows, it's like, oh, well, that's easy.
That's the beauty of drawing. Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. So, all in all, the story looks like it's a good time.
It's a good time.
A lot of Imperial business.
It's a lot of Imperial business. It's a lot of Boba Fett is basically hired by Imperials. He accidentally starts a war.
Looks like there's way more Imperials than there are Boba Fett. It's not cursory.
Yes.
Go through it.
It's a fine story. I'll give it a solid 3 stars.
9 months after the Battle of Yavin. Very specific.
It is very specific. It's basically about an Imperial who's kind of fed up with his superiors and wants to advance his career. So he hires Boba Fett to kind of start a war.
Cool.
It's fun. It has its repercussions at the end. Like, you hired Boba Fett. You shouldn't have done that, but whatever.
Maybe someone should have told him that the Empire lost the Battle of Yavin, and that the Emperor's dead, and Vader's dead, and the Death Star is dead.
I think that comes up at least once in this whole omnibus. But we are, as you bring that up, we are moving towards the kind of the point where it shifts, and now we are talking about the stuff that happened after the Battle of Yavin.
Ron, you were very, very generous when we did this. We came up with the idea of this podcast. You said you take the second half.
Well, I knew you had a very strong connection to our.
I'm so thankful.
The seventh story arc in this, really the 7th, 8th, 9th story arc.
Oh, I love it all.
Actually, no, I take that back. 7th story arc is kind of a one shot. 8, 9, and 10 are kind of really the continuation.
I'll be honest with you, Ron. I like every single story in this. It was a blast.
This is okay. So let's start.
Strap in.
Let's start.
Strap in, because here we go. All
right, I'm gonna sit back and watch JP gush.
Well, yeah,
I'll jump in there too, because this is high Boba Fett.
This is kick-ass shit.
Yeah,
this is fun.
This is high story.
Here we go. Part 6, Boba Fett half salvage. I believe that's one of those half issues that Wizard used to offer. You could mail in for them.
Yes.
So it's 16 pages. This comic is by it's got a cover by Tim Bradstreet, and this is the era of Tim Bradstreet covers. He was doing covers for Garth Ennis's Punisher at the time.
Okay.
And Tim Bradstreet is a badass when it comes to like photorealistic, just cool shit. Especially guys with gear and pockets and stuff like Boba.
Like Boba.
Yeah, exactly. And it was drawn by Carlos Escalera and written by John Wagner, who these are two men who coincidentally created the character, the other big famous comic book character with a big helmet, Judge Dredd.
Oh, I am the law.
Yeah, that's I am the law. They created him in the second issue of 2000 AD in 1977, same year as Star Wars, Ron.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm completely blanking on this storyline, but go on.
Oh, this story. Okay, here we go. So it's very simple. Like I said, it's 16 pages, but these are guys who are used to working at 2000 AD, where they're used to working with, Yeah,
like they 2000 AD was like 3 pages.
Yeah, they worked 4 to 8 pages at a time.
Yeah.
So they know how to tell a short story. And really, I think Dark Horse figured out early on, for a variety of reasons, that the 2000 AD guys were going to be their go-tos for the Star Wars.
Sure.
Like, I mean, that's where they went for Cam Kennedy came on with Dark Empire. That was their first big hit. And John Wagner's written a shit ton, and because you can do these short stories. Yes, this is the one.
This is great. I just discovered what this one was. This was great.
So basically, it's a very simple story. Boba finds a big, awesome ship that's like just free floating that he can salvage.
Yeah, this is like I think Timothy Zahn kind of coined the term for this type of ship, a dreadnought.
Yes, yeah. And he basically this is an interesting thing too. This also brings about the idea that Boba just has cages in Slave One. He keeps people.
That was creepy.
Yeah,
creepy.
And it shows up again. John Wagner shows this again in other stories.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's just because it makes sense. He's a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
If you catch someone alive, he's got to put him somewhere.
Yeah. Although it makes me wonder, like, which way is up on the Slave One?
Oh God, I always wondered that. Yeah, right. It's like you're standing there in your cell, and next thing you know,
the toy did a good job of shifting the cockpit as the wings turn on the Slave One.
That's just the cockpit. What are those poor bastards in the cells?
Everyone else is just fumbling around.
Yeah, and also, why give them gravity?
Well, I think that's how Slave One works. Is there's the gravity is all artificial.
I would assume there would just be no gravity. Anyhow, doesn't matter. So he goes on to this. He basically is like, this could be dangerous. So he gets one of the crooks that are in his jail cell, and is like, "You're coming with me because you know a lot about like stealing shit and salvaging."
One of his bounties.
Yeah, one of his bounties. Thank you. And he takes him in. The whole time the bounty is very Judge Dredd 2000 AD. Like, hey, what are you doing? What about my rights? What about this? It's being very lippy the whole time.
Right.
And they go on and this big salvage ship, and the guy keeps telling him, "It's like, this is going to be the biggest bounty you've ever found. This is going to make you so rich you shouldn't be a bounty hunter anymore." They ultimately find the remains of Palpatine's third cousin, Valpoo.
Valpoo.
Yeah,
Valpoo.
Skeeve's cousin.
Steve and Valpoo. They used to hang out together.
Yeah. This doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's never really brought up by the end of the story or brought up again.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think
I kind of glossed over that. I didn't even realize that was Palpatine's cousin.
Yeah, John Wagner's just throwing shit in. Basically, the whole time his bounty is being a real, oh, what if there's an infection on the thing? Well, it turns out all the dead bodies are riddled with these insect creatures.
Disgusting.
That are awesomely disgusting.
Awesomely disgusting.
Like, if you're a 14, 15-year-old boy, this is it. There's creatures that have, they're kind of like cicadas or something, but they have, a mouth, and they kind of latch on, and they dig a hole in your body.
They dig in your whole body, and
you die, they live in your body for...
Nest.
They say it in here. They live in the body for 10 to 15 years until another person comes along and they infect that host body.
Yeah.
So, and it's a silly story. It doesn't really have much consequence or anything.
Silly story, but Boba Fett, in order to fend off these insects from himself, he starts himself on fire.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But at the end of the story, basically, it's very similar to a lot of the other stories. He doesn't take the ship and make $1 billion kajillion dollars. He ends up blowing up the ship, but he keeps Valpoo's headdress, crown, tiara thing. It's tiara, yeah. And he's going to break that up and use it for money. So he's going to he made some profit, and that's as good as it's going to be for him for that day. But Carlos Escazera does a hell of a job drawing Boba. This actually might be my favorite Boba.
I gotta say, I'm actually not surprised, but happy to hear you say that, because I'm flipping through this as you talk, and it's like, yeah, Boba Fett looks really good in this.
The physicality.
It's very clean.
Well, I mean, and this is the guy who created Judge Dredd, so it makes sense.
It's a very clean shot of Boba Fett.
And it's funny you said the word clean, because I think that is also one of the things that bonds Star Wars and the 2000 AD artists, especially the originals, is that they both present a world that is futuristic, yet lived in and dirty.
Sure.
Like, his armor looks bent up and dirty.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's got the same pockmarks that were in the first story arc of this.
But there's no more lines needed than to show that it's dirty and pockmarked. Like,
right.
It's very masterful in that way. Like, Carlos Escudero is a hell of a goddamn artist. I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation of his name, but I've been a big fan for a long time. And
also, his two aliens, his two kind of bounties that are in this.
Yeah,
I would say they really they straddle the line of being cartoony and Star Warsy.
Well, I find that with the aliens in these 2080 artists stuff and aliens that didn't show up in the movies, it's like you kind of walk out of Star Wars and into 2080 world.
Sure.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, well, that could very well be Meg City 1.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm surprised I didn't remember this. Maybe it was kind of the creepiness factor of the cicada-like bugs.
Yeah.
But this is a strong story. I'll give it 4. I'll give it 4 cicadas.
Yeah. I would definitely give it 4 Django's. It's a blast.
Yes.
But it's really just a precursor
to the big one. The big one that you've been talking about since, like, day one.
Yes. Part 7 is Boba Fett Twin Engines of Destruction.
Wait, say that again. You slurred over that.
Twin
engines of destruction.
Twin engines.
Yeah, this is the big one that you've been wanting to talk about forever. So let's go to it.
It's a very simple 36-page one-shot, and quite frankly, I love this story. Everyone I know loves this story. It's got Jodo cast, maybe the greatest addition in the Star Wars EU in terms of characters ever.
Jodo cast, you say? Who's Jodo cast?
Filoni himself paid homage to him in the Clone Wars by having one of Maul's Mandalorian Guard be a cast. One of their last names was Cast.
K-A-S-T.
K-A-S-T,
yes.
That's right. Jodo Cast looks just like Boba Fett.
He's a Boba Fett imposter.
He has Mandalorian. He's just a guy with Mandalorian armor running around taking bounties.
Posing as Boba Fett. Yeah.
One day, Dengar runs afoul of him. Dengar's the big bandaged guy.
Yeah.
Who,
if you know only Dengar from the brief moment that he's in Empire.
Yeah.
As kind of the chubby bounty hunter, right, in the bandages, then you really don't know Dengar, because Dengar has been in at least 2 of the previous storylines that we've mentioned.
Yeah.
In this omnibus, and Dengar is a badass. Like, Dengar is, like, if you were going to rate the bounty hunters on the Star Destroyer, in Empire, like, I would say Dengar ranks almost like a close second to Boba Fett.
But he's kind of, well, I don't know. He's kind of past his prime, right?
I don't think so.
I always think that...
Here's the problem with Dengar.
Yeah.
Dengar has a grudge out for Han Solo, and this is we're totally in EU territory.
I did not know
None of this counts.
I don't know any of this.
But Dengar lost a speeder bike race to Han Solo as a youth.
Oh, I've heard this. Yes.
If you're familiar with the EU, you've heard the story. And Dengar since then has held a grudge to Han Solo and is constantly out to get him. Right.
Right.
But regardless of that, Dengar is kind of a badass. Like, he's not like, he may look like he's just kind of a pudgy guy in a bunch of bandages in Empire, but the way he's portrayed in the EU, he's kind of a badass that, way more of a badass than Bosk.
Well, that's debatable.
Yeah, Bosk is kind of a pain in the ass in these.
Yeah, well, that's debatable. Anyhow, let's not get into that yet. We'll do a Bounty Hunter episode someday. But, so Jodo Cast has always been a character that fascinated me. This is Boba Fett versus Impersonator. That's the story.
Yes.
And I assume a lot of our listeners know Jodo Cast, right? Maybe not?
Maybe not. Maybe
Okay.
not. We know that a lot of our listeners actually don't consider the EU,
All right, let me run this story down real quick for you then.
We have.
I'm going to run the story down just real quick. Basically, we follow a whole story where Boba Fett, what appears to be Boba Fett, is taking down a criminal, doing this whole thing, getting a bounty, this whole yada yada yada, runs across Dengar. Dengar's like, you're not Boba.
Yeah.
And
Wait. Oh, go on.
Dengar alerts Boba.
This is the glory that is Dengar.
Okay.
He alerts Boba. And he alerts Boba as, let me get to the page. You see on screen a message from Dengar to, not Boba Fett, to Sarlacc food. That's how he refers to Boba Fett. Like, that's how badass Dengar is. Hey, Sarlacc food. There's someone out here impersonating you. You better take care of that Sarlacc food. Like, that's awesome. Like,
we got to credit that to the writer Andy Mingle.
Yeah.
And Mangles, sorry. Andy Mangles is a guy I wasn't very familiar with, but I came to know on research for this. And he was very much a man of his time, 90s comic book writer.
Yeah.
He later on went on to write a bunch of Star Trek novels.
Yes.
Once again, the coalition of Star Trek, Star Wars.
Move along.
But no, he is also very active in the gay community, and he's in Portland, Oregon. He gay comics in the 90s. I don't know if everyone's familiar. He was the editor of that, and that was it
was called Gay Comics?
It's called Gay Comics, yeah.
Interesting.
Like crime comics.
Okay.
This was Gay Comics.
Gay Comics.
Yeah, and it was just like that. I know of it because we're both a big fan of the series The Max.
Yes, I
Sam
love the
Keith's
Max.
The Max.
Oh my god.
Sam Keith did an homage cover and a little short story in Gay Comics, and I bought that because I was a crazy Max head.
It's crazy. You just mentioned the Max, and I'm just like, I love the Max.
Yeah.
Oh, Max is so sad. Like,
Yeah.
I have that feeling immediately.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And the cover it's the Max.
Yeah.
Like all like he's like crouched down and like he's like in this like dark little room, and he's like,
God.
and it's like Gay Comics, and it's like, am I? And like the logo with the Max in the closet. And anyhow, I bought that at like age, I don't know, 13 or something. I had to go to the comic store, go Gay Comics, and the knowing like
Your
the
parents
knowing
are like,
Gay comics. I'm a big fan of the Max, big fan. But Andy Minkles actually wrote a bunch of shit. He also wrote a couple Child's Play adaptations.
Okay.
Some Friday the 13th adaptations.
Nice.
A bunch of cool stuff in the 90s. DS9 stuff.
Okay.
So anyhow,
Anyway.
Well, the thing about it is, I think this is such an amazingly economical 36-page story that gets so much across.
Also very Star Warsy.
And it's very Star Warsy that I wonder why Andy Mingle's not a bigger name. But before I get to that, let's just finish up the story. Okay, so we start out, Boba, what appears to be Boba, takes down this bounty. It's a whole thing. Dengar sees him, and Dengar's like, you're not Boba. Tells Boba, and then this guy gets another bounty. This guy who we now know is not Boba. And he's tracking this guy down, and he's almost getting to him, and then it turns out the guy he's tracking is a hologram. And he's like, what is that? He's like, hold on. We're just going to skip over.
All right.
And he's like, what's going on? And he's got a gun to his head, and the line is, that's a hologram. This is a gun, something like that.
Yeah, that may be the cover image I use for this episode.
Yeah.
It's called a hologram. This is called a trap, and I'm calling you dead.
Yeah. And this is where the story gets goddamn fascinating to me. Okay, here we go. So this is a story where Dengar's in it. We have Minox are in this story. Minox show up a few pages before this. Boba lures Jodo to Nal Hutta. This takes place on Nal Hutta.
Okay, so let's touch on Nal Hutta here for a second.
This is the Hutt homeworld.
There's Nal Hutta and Narshutta.
Yep.
Right? I'm not getting that name right. But these are basically it's like a Hutt planet and its moon.
Yeah.
Is that how that goes?
Yeah.
Like I feel like these are established actually in a video game.
Oh.
Dark Forces, where you could actually play on these planets.
Interesting.
I may be wrong. It may have been established prior to this, but I remember coming across...
Well, what video game? Because this would have been 97.
Dark Forces. It was basically a Doom ripoff told in the Star Wars universe.
Doom ripoff, so a PC game?
It was. I played on the Mac. I'm sure it was on PC.
Must have been.
But I remember.
So let's say, I remember reading this off the stands, like I was a kid.
I remember first hearing about Nal Hutta in the video game where you actually are playing on it. And it was like, oh, there's a whole gangster planet where the Hutts hang out, and it was like, oh, that's just badass.
I feel like that must be either an RPG thing.
It's quite possible that West End Games is the one that came up with this, but it's a through line in the EU. Like it's basically.
Oh yeah, I mean it's in Clone Wars now.
Yeah, it's a very. Is it in? Did they make it into Clone Wars?
I feel like it was in the Clone Wars. It starts out with a Hutt story. I feel like Nal Hutta was on it.
I would hope that it made it into canon. Like as much as Coruscant has been made canon by GL himself. I would love for Nal Hutta to be made into canon because the whole idea of just being this sinister gangster planet. And
it's like Sicily.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like this makes total sense.
Yeah. It's all
so anyway, go on.
Okay. So Boba lures Jodo to Nal Hutta with a false bounty, dispatches him. He throws out that great line, "And I'm calling you dead." I mean, this is straight out of Dirty Harry type stuff.
Yeah.
But then here's the best part. There's a big fight, 3-page fight, classic comic book stuff.
Yeah.
And then he's got him dead to rights.
That's great art.
Oh yeah, he's got him dead to it's true. I shouldn't.
Come on.
Yeah, the art is really.
I'm flipping through the book and I'm just like, oh, this one page is just insane. Where basically Jodo Cast uses his jetpack as a weapon on Boba Fett, who's behind him. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's really great comic booky stuff. I don't have the artist's name in front of me, Ron. If you could look that up,
I'll flip
that'd be
through.
great.
Keep going. I'll find it.
But so anyhow, he so after he dispatches him with his thing, he's like, they fight, and then he's like, take off the helmet, take off the armor, you don't deserve it. He finally takes off the helmet, and Boba throws out you're nobody.
Yeah.
He goes, you're not Dala, you're not Shaisha, you're nobody.
Yeah.
Immediately I was like, who the fuck is Dala and Shaisha?
All right.
Well, it turns out, Ron, Dala is Toby Dala. And Shiza is Finn Shiza. Toby and Shinza were both Mandalorian Protectorate from the Marvel comic series. There's a whole era of Boba continuity that is long gone and out of our scope. We need to read the Marvel comic series.
Yeah, mind blown.
And you know what, Ron? That's not the only person who's got a long continuity in this series. Jodo Cast, who we discussed.
Yes.
Jodo Cast actually started out in 1988.
Okay.
And
okay, mind blown again.
The West, Jodo Cast we all know of just from this story. Although there was a second story he showed up in this same year, a month before this, there was a short story published called "The Last One Standing: The Tale of Boba Fett."
Okay.
Both stories, the Twin Engines of Destruction, and The Last One Standing, end with Jodo Cast dying.
Interesting.
They happen within a month.
Died twice.
They happen within a month of each other. It's unclear who had the idea first. Publishing schedules being what they are. But he actually started out as a West End Games RPG character in Tatooine Manhunt in 1988.
Okay. So that's a big thing you bring up there.
Yeah.
West End Games. West End Games is really responsible for the EU Legends as we know it, because that was the beginning of the EU, because it was an RPG, not like the RPGs we know of today, where are video games.
Yeah,
but an RPG like Dungeons and Dragons, where you're
very much.
You basically have your printed book.
You buy your base level, your base level maps and what have you with the Star Wars RPG,
right?
And everything else is
some sort of dungeon master.
Jedi DM,
master,
right. And everything else after that.
So this is old school game playing.
Yeah, you get books, and the books are filled with character stats that you roll up later, right. and campaigns.
And that's where West End Games, really makes its history. Is there's all these characters in the background of all these Star Wars movies. Let's expand upon those backgrounds.
Yeah.
Of who these people are and what they're doing.
And what their motivations were.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, the EU is not being created by the authors at this time. They're being created by a game company.
Yeah.
Who needs to create backgrounds on this in order to enhance the game.
And some of it's weird too. Like this,
some of it.
Tatooine Manhunt. The cover is that classic Ralph McQuarrie image of the bounty hunters on Cloud City.
I love that image.
Oh,
love that image.
So good.
Yeah.
And that image is showing IG-88, Boba Fett, etc. But that's not what they're showing it as for the book. For that campaign, those characters aren't Boba Fett and IG-88 and everybody else. It's Boba Fett. It's not Boba Fett. Boba Fett character is Jodo Cast. IG-88 is IG-72. I don't know why this is. I believe
we need to track this down. We need to track down West End Games and figure this out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there's an opportunity to maybe talk to somebody from West End.
Well, there's two things, and we've been going on a roll here for quite a while. So let me just take us on a sidetrack.
Jesus Christ, Ron, we're at almost an hour 40.
Oh, it's fine. We're doing fine. But let me sidetrack us for 1 second.
Yeah.
Two things. Yes, we should. We should track down West End Games and find out the history of it, and maybe talk to someone there. Yeah. Right. Also, Kenner. Kenner is in Cincinnati. We need to go there.
It's Kenner Street.
Yeah, screw going to Celebration and weekends.
Yeah.
I want to go to Kenner.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Cincinnati? That's a 5-hour drive from here. Dude, go there.
We'll bring the mics. Yeah. Fuck yes. Yeah. All right, well, that's on docket. Look for a Cincinnati episode. Yeah. Okay, bottom line, so that's a little bit of background for you guys. That's a lot of fun. I had no idea how much Jodo Cast. I actually can...
Oh, sorry. I was going to tell you the creators of this book.
Oh, well, yeah, we know one, but who's the...
So, the pencils of the book were done by John Nadeau.
And what's funny is Andy Nagel, John Nadeau, Mangles.
Andy Mangles.
Andy Mangles and John
Nadeau
are two names that, are not household names. But literally everyone of my generation loves this comic book.
Yeah. And
I have friends that don't read comic books that read this comic book.
This is a big one. I mean... Maybe it's just... you have...
It's the best.
You have two Boba Fetts basically fighting each other. And
it's very simple.
Guy knows how to draw Boba Fett.
And it's the thing is, though, it's not... next story we're going to have is Cam Kennedy, who's stylistically just so loud.
Yes.
This is a quiet comic book.
It is.
It is very much just a simple, run-of-the-mill workman comic book, but it somehow makes it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing special about what they're doing here.
It's funny because although I feel like this style is very complimentary to Cam Kennedy, because I did not, until just now, I did not realize that Cam Kennedy did not do this book.
Oh, no. No one did this book. That's the crazy thing about it, Ron.
Well, some people did this book.
Well, yeah, but nobody who's a name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, I recommend checking it out. I recommend checking out more work by these creators. The ending of the story is where we got to get to, though.
The ending
so
is...
they have
yeah.
It's classic.
Yeah.
So there's a big... they have the big fight. Turns out, you're no one. You're not Dala, not Shala, not nobody. And he basically injects him with some shit. There's some more fighting, and he injects him with some shit, ultimately. It's a poison. And he goes... And he puts down 3 vials in front of him. And he's like, well, one of these has the antidote. If you're me, you'll know how to get it. And like just puts him down in front of him and walks away.
Yep.
And Dengar, I think, right?
Yes.
Is like, oh, you're getting soft in your old age, that kind of thing, And he's like,
and this is...
He's like, you wouldn't have ever left him a way out before.
This
and
happens...
This is classic.
This happens after the Sarlacc pit.
Oh, yeah. We kind of covered that, yeah. But this is kind of, I thought you were going to say this is how all of them end.
No.
And I was like, this is how all of them end.
But this plays into a point I want to make in a future, one of the other story arcs that we talk about.
Because, it's like, you wouldn't let him away out, and it's like, I didn't.
Yeah.
Basically saying, like, there were no antidotes. I just twisted the knife for no good reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't fuck with me, I'm Boba Fett. I remember just being fascinated. I read this story. It's weird. I have a very specific memory of this one. I had one of those days where I went to my dad's work for the day.
Yeah.
And those days are really fun for an hour, and then they get boring for half of it.
Right.
I remember reading this comic and just being so fascinated, just being because of how much pride that Boba had in the Mandalorian armor, and how upset he was at someone that was wearing it that he didn't know.
Sure.
And it really added a lot of depth to the character without adding anything specific. You know what I mean?
Sure. Oh, so. I will give it 5 Joda casts.
Yeah, 5 out of 5.
It's the one to read if you're going to pick this omnibus up.
Yeah,
it's the one. It's the one. The other ones are very entertaining. And
some are prettier, some are...
As I said, the one is very emotional. I thought it was very well done. This one is just... It's got the bang for the buck.
Yeah. It's 36 pages.
You always... prior to you really rediscovering this, you always thought this was a longer arc than just 36 pages.
Well, it feels more like... it feels more.
It feels epic.
They really pack a lot in there.
It brings a very, very unique, distinct... facet to the Star Wars universe of having someone actually be pretending that they're Boba Fett to get higher bounties.
What's weird about it is it's just so simple but so perfect. It's operating on this fan level, this deep fan level of the RPG thing? Yeah, guess what? We're playing into that.
Yeah.
And it's it's playing into Boba Fett. It's like you read the Marvel comics, we're playing into that. It's
right.
It's all there. It's right. But it's also very unassuming. It's not trying to blow your mind.
Sure.
The artwork is solid, and that's it. It's just a solid story.
It's solid.
Anyhow,
so we're giving it 5. We're giving it 5 Joda casts out of 5.
Yeah. So that's a very solid story. Now we're going to go to the wow factor.
This to me is this. The omnibus.
Take the dog out of the cage. Let's take him for a walk.
Let's
have a good fucking
really,
time.
really ending in a high. And there's some moments that I question, but rereading this, I was loving this. This was so much fun. So this starts with basically this is a.
Well, time out. This is Boba Fett, bounty on Barracuda.
Okay, but in the omnibus, this is. Basically, it all runs together, and it's called Death, Lies, and Treachery.
No, well, who cares about that? That's bullshit.
But it's Bounty on Barracuda, Fat Lady Swings.
Yeah, Fat Lady Swings is such a good title. Why cut that out? Murder Most Foul.
Murder Most Foul.
Yeah.
Is just three?
Yep, it's just 3 stories.
3 chapters. Yeah, this is okay. So this is Cam Kennedy and John Wagner.
Well, here's the beauty of it. It's Cam Kennedy. This is Cam Kennedy from Dark Empire.
Yeah, this is Cam Kennedy coloring.
And this is Dark Empire mode. Mm-hmm. This is where he's doing his own hand-colored painted artwork. It's all him. And it's also him relinquish. He no longer is on that deadline like he was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got to do 32 pages by whenever we release the one-shot.
Right.
It's not about okay, it's a 6 miniseries, so by issue 4 you have to be fucking You had to make sure you keep the schedule every 30 days.
Sure.
Like, this is like, okay, Cam, do 30 pages or 22 pages. Whenever you finish it, we'll release it. And that's what these 3 stories are. And it's just fun. John Wagner crafts a tale that is mostly very Akira Kurosawa, very spaghetti western, Boba Fett playing 2 sides against the middle. And it's basically just filled with shit that Cam likes to draw.
Oh, yeah.
Like
big time.
Busted up old ships, huts, big sluggy huts, Boba Fett.
Not just busted up old ships. Speeder bike races within, like, busted up old ships.
Oh, yeah. And not just huts, but huts in free fall.
Oh,
because there's nothing he likes better. It's so funny. We saw this in Dark Empire. I remember reading Dark Empire. I remember we did that review a while ago, and it was like, there's that part where there's a hut falling in free fall, and I was like, I don't remember this from here. I remember this from the Fat Lady Swings.
Yes.
Because the Fat Lady Swings is like, there's like a 10-page homage to fat slugs falling.
Right. All right. So let's run down the basic plot, because I had to reread this. I was looking forward to rereading this. I powered through the entire omnibus to get to this.
I'm honestly gonna run through all the plot really quickly, and then we'll just kind of gush for a while.
Yes.
All right.
First of all, Hudson Love.
Hudson Love.
Hudson
Love. But,
like,
love and business mix in Hut
World.
Yeah. So,
all right, go on.
This is all about boba, huts, and made-up aliens. It's the Cam Kennedy show. Beautiful, subtle colors. Basically, that really fun bit in Dark Empire where Han and Hut and Boba Fett are all in Corellian.
Yes.
It's basically... Yeah, Corellian. It's all that in 3 books. It's just pure fun, bordering on farce. We have Gorga the Hutt wants the hand of Orko the Hutt's daughter, whose name I didn't write down. Do you have that there?
I will. I'll find it. Keep going.
I couldn't pronounce it anyhow. It starts with an A.
Right.
So he hires Boba to bring him one of Orko's enemies as a dowry, right?
Yes.
The enemy in charge is Barkuda.
Barkuda.
That's BAR-KOODA. Barkuda. Barkuda looks like a whale man.
Oh, I love Barkuda.
I love Barkuda.
Barkuda may be my favorite EU character design.
I wanna bring that up with you. Do you think that Barkuda could work in a film? Because I think he could.
Oh, totally. No,
I mean, in a world where Walrus Man exists,
Barkuda, it feels very Star Wars-y to me.
Agreed.
Barkuda is the character that the Clone Wars shark guy should have been.
Agreed.
Right?
Thank you. Yeah, it might have been a subtle reference there. Yeah, Barkuda is awesome. He's basically a space pirate. It's a very convoluted plot in which...
let's just say we're dealing in dark underworld.
Yeah.
In this whole series, there is nothing that isn't, above level in this whole series.
This takes place in the Judge Dredd universe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question.
Right.
Once again, we are knee-deep in Judge Dredd people. We have John Wagner, creator of Judge Dredd, and Cam Kennedy. Cam Kennedy's written drawn so much great 2080 stuff. I mean, it's no question. So, anyhow, the storyline, I don't want to get too bogged down by this. Because there's multiple... Basically, all 3 stories have the same kind of setup of a bad guy, 2 big bad guys, and then Boba playing them against each other, and there's a little guy in the middle too. And the little guy in this story is the magician, which Boba has under custody. The magician used to be part of Barkuda's crew, and he's literally a magician.
No, not his crew. His
Barkuda had taken control of a ship that he was on.
He was performing for Barkuda.
Yeah.
And Barkuda wanted to know
how the hoop trick worked.
How the hoop. One of his tricks. He wanted to know how it works.
The hoop trick.
Yes. And the magician never reveals his secrets.
This is why I didn't want to get bogged down into it. It's just a little silly, a little much, but because it also gets in this whole thing about technology in Star Wars and how that works. It doesn't matter. The point is
Anacro. That's the love
An
interest.
acro. Thank you.
That's the female love interest in this. An acro.
The point is that Gorga wants to impress Orko by bringing him his enemy, Barkuda. And he does this. Ultimately, Boba goes through a whole rigmarole with this. He captures this magician character who's pretended to be dead, and he gets him to perform the hoop trick for Barkuda. Barkuda ultimately jumps through the hoop. Turns out it's a transmitter, and he's now face-to-face with Boba Fett. Boba Fett dispatches him. Ultimately, Gorga the Hutt serves up in a very comical fashion Barkuda on a plate to Orko. Like, he's literally trussed up like a big giant shrimp.
All right, let's talk about two things here. Back up for 1 second. Mm-hmm. The magician.
Yeah.
The magician is
kind of a Pinocchio garb. It's kind of classic Italian comic thing.
Yes, I'm not a DC fan, but I got the impression of Mr.
Mxyzptlk.
Yes.
Yep.
From the magician character, and later on in another character later on in the arc, but just a very diminutive character who thinks he's a little bit more powerful than he is.
Yeah.
Has a little bit of a talent for the special effects. Also, Barkuda. Barkuda is known for eating his enemies.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So the fact that Boba Fett has killed him, and is now feeding him, to the Hutts that hired him, is a little bit, some poetic justice there.
Yeah.
Right?
And the whole thing is like silly poetic justice stuff.
Yeah. I think we've oversimplified this character or the story arc.
No, I'm going to. You have to oversimplify it because it's so complicated.
And the other thing is, you have to read it because the artwork is so damn beautiful.
Well, here's the thing.
Look at that back of Boba Fett. Like,
there's two things I want to cover in this. Number one is the colors.
Yes.
As beautiful as Dark Empire is, and goddamn it is beautiful.
Yeah.
This is Cam Kennedy. Cam Kennedy is now released from the restrictions of like having to do likenesses. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to draw someone looking like Harrison Ford.
Right, because there's no Harrison Ford.
Yeah, it's just a guy in a mask and a bunch of made-up aliens. Yes. So he's actually comfortable.
Yes.
A.
Yes.
B, the color is actually more subtle than it ever was. Like, Dark Empire is beautiful. This is a more beautiful book. And because there's points where there's a speeder bike chase that's happening inside of a ship, and it's dark on dark, and it's so subtle and just gorgeous.
Right.
Like, I can't say enough good things. And the third thing...
Before you go to the third thing, let me just point out, there are things in this that are very un-Star Warsy.
Oh, yeah.
And yet it still works. There are trucks with 4 wheels driving around, and it looks and feels very un-Star Warsy, and yet it still works.
Like I said, it's because that transport to that 2000 AD universe isn't so much of a shift.
Yes.
Because it's like, it's still dirty and lived in. Like, because really that's what it's about. It's about having a dirty, lived-in world, right?
Right.
And Cam Kennedy also credits a lot of that to the color. He says that him using these complementary color schemes and stuff really made it feel like a Star Wars-y cinematic feeling. And I can kind of agree with that.
I guess
it's just more heightened.
I'm looking at a page here that's all done in red and blue.
Yeah.
And
that doesn't feel Star Wars.
That doesn't feel Star Wars to me, but god damn it if it doesn't feel epic.
Yeah, exactly. And now here's the thing. His portrayal of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
He has a very slim Boba Fett.
Boba Fett looks a little feminine to me.
He's very... I don't think he looks feminine, Ron.
To me, he looks feminine.
Well...
A little bit. A little bit in profile. Maybe not on...
Hey, don't backtrack, Ron. If you like him, you like him. But, he's very slim, but the body language... I mean, because he's slim, I think what he's really going for here is Clint Eastwood. Straight up.
Yeah.
And it's straight up Clint Eastwood, and the body language is just so indifferent and great.
Yeah.
There's a shot in here, as I wrote it down specifically in the notes, where he does this. There's a shot of the magician talking to Boba and explaining his plight of like why he can't go back to Barkuda and stuff. And he's directly in front of a sitting Boba. Yeah. And you just see Boba just splayed in his chair looking at him. And he's got that Michael Myers from Halloween like cocked head looking at him.
Right.
Where it's like you can't tell if he doesn't understand him or if he just doesn't give a shit.
Right.
And it's just like the body language says, so, there it is. That's the one.
Yeah.
Says so much about the character, right? Like just where it's like he's just kind of figuring out his own plan. He's a man to himself.
Sure.
So yeah, the first story, great stuff, very fun frivolity.
Right. Ends with basically Barkuda being served to the huts.
Yeah. Well, to
Araco.
To Orko. Yeah.
Orko.
Gorga
is the father-in-law.
And he throws a threat in there too. He says, as you can see, soon to be father-in-law, like not only am I dangerous to your foes, I'm dangerous in general, something along those lines.
I mean, the whole point of this is Orko. Orko is the male here.
Yeah, Orko's...
He's in love with the...
No. Orko's the father.
Oh, what's the...
Gorga's the...
Gorga.
Hut.
Gorga is basically in love with...
Orko the Hun and Gorga the Hut.
Okay. Gorga the Hun is in love with... Oh, my goodness.
Gorga the Hut.
Gorga the Hut
yeah.
is in love with...
Orca. Or no.
Anaraco.
Anaraco,
the Hun.
Mm-hmm.
And her father is Orko.
Yeah.
Right? And basically the whole gist of this is boy loves girl, boy hates father.
Yeah.
Right? Boy wants to kill father without girl knowing it.
And that's the plot of the whole
that
three
is the
series.
Plot of it,
yes.
All right?
It goes through all three stories.
Right? Get Boba Fett involved to kill father so that it doesn't look like I hired you to kill father.
Well, that's the plot of the third story, Ron. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Well, I mean, yes.
The next part is Boba Fett when the fat lady sings. Swings. Yes, that's right. Thank you. When the fat lady swings. This dovetails...
I believe that is a typo in parts of the book, too.
Oh, yeah?
You're right. I believe they get that wrong in parts of the book, but I believe that it is originally meant to be when the fat lady swings because that is a plot point in the book.
And this becomes a very much of a Yojimbo, very much of a fistful of dollars. Boba Fett playing two sides against the middle.
So explain the Yojimbo thing because
Yojimbo's in a Akira Kurosawa film.
Okay.
Toshiro Mifune plays a wandering Ronin who comes into a town that's has two warring factions and a middling peasant community.
Okay.
And he ultimately joins up with one gang and then joins up with the other and kind of plays the two against each other. And
okay.
Yeah, it's been remade multiple times.
Absolutely.
Both as Fistful of Dollars with Clint Eastwood and Last Man Standing with Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we covered that because it's definitely that. I just want to make sure.
Oh, it's that.
We're covering our bases here.
So this dovetails right out of Bounty on Barkuda, and it just really ratchets up the silly machinations of the story. I mean,
sure.
Gorgo and Orko are now in a steady kind of tete-a-tete, also, we have a new character introduced, Raikuda.
Raikuda, which is the brother of Barkuda.
Barkuda's big brother.
Yeah.
He's the big badass. He thought Barkuda was badass. He discovers that Boba killed his brother and vows revenge. And at the center of it all...
Not just killed. He discovers that the Hutts ate his brother.
Yes.
What indignity is that?
Especially if you're a big fish man.
Yeah, oh my god.
Because, I mean, have we covered the fact that he looks like a big, silly fish man?
Well, he looks like... Honestly, I don't know if he looks like a fish man, because that's like Admiral Akbar. He looks like a walking, slender Hutt.
Yeah, kind of.
He's got a very big head, very muscular body.
It's that big lower jaw,
it's the lower jaw
thing.
Yeah. And the way Cam Kennedy draws textures are these
weird spots.
Have these very weird spots all over people. It's very iconic. It's very sinister. And I think it would work in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, agreed. And
Maybe not the sidekicks, but
no, not
Boz,
the
the sidekick, who kind of
fills the magician role.
Yeah, fills the magician role.
I questioned that. Like, why was the magician not that character in this?
Yeah, I don't know.
I felt like
It
these
feels
three
very
stories,
Muppet-like too.
These three stories are kind of presented like a trilogy.
Yes.
Right down to the fact that like the first one's standalone, and the second two are dependent on each other. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But oh yeah, and at the center of the whole story, the bride.
Anarako.
At this point,
Anarako.
At this point, Anarako and
she's kidnapped.
Gorga have been married already.
Yes.
And now she has been kidnapped.
She's been kidnapped
and held for ransom.
And Gorga,
yeah,
has hired Fett to retrieve her.
Yeah, and basically the whole story just like it's not really worth slowing down the plot points.
Yeah.
Because it really comes down to a mousetrap Rube Goldberg situation, in which we ultimately have Anarako tied up and suspended by a jet. She kind of
ropes.
We play out the Indiana Jones scene from Temple of Doom with the mine shaft with the with the mine stuff, and ultimately ends up with her splattering the bad guys by happenstance, and very silly, funny little story that takes care of Raikuda is apparently dead by the end.
It's funny that you say silly, because I the artwork alone, I never really thought of this as a serious story. I thought of it as very gritty.
Oh, it's so gritty, but it's very 2000 AD style, silly, satirical stuff. Like, literally, we have a big fat woman hut splatting 6 guys.
Sure. Yeah. But I guess I don't know. I guess I gravitated more towards the grittiness of the whole, like, not just the storytelling, but the artwork. Like, it feels like I never once was like the earlier story arc with the the search for the Velicica, whatever the hell that thing's called. Like, that felt very silly to me. This feels very gritty, not dark, but not
more visceral.
Yeah, visceral, not cartoony.
And I think that speaks to maybe how this kind of story works best with art-wise. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, there's a shot. I'm looking at a shot right here where Boba Fett is basically using his either flamethrower or a rocket launcher on his arm, blasting it into Raikuda's mouth.
And the thing is also it's key to note, and I have a note about this for the next story. The stories don't treat it silly. Like, I'm saying it's silly, but it's
not silly.
The characters. Well, I mean,
there's nothing really.
It is. It's a way. Well, they are, but it's very satirical on another level.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's like a silly thing where it's like we're meant to laugh the whole way through, but it's funny.
It's
a big. Fat Lady Swings is a funny title.
Yes.
But it's drawn like none of the characters know it's funny.
Right.
It's their lives.
Right.
Like ultimately, when Raikuda is finally dispatched in the third story, Boba Fett doesn't make some like fish joke. Boba Fett says, "A worthy foe, in many ways to be admired."
Yeah.
Like it's not being ironic and silly. It's riding that weird line of 2000 AD comics that I don't think catches on in America so well.
Sure.
Where it's very darkly funny, you know?
Which is, I mean, that's a good point you make, is, like, I think that these stories in particular, like, they probably won't be recreated in whatever movie we end up getting for Boba Fett, because they're very un-American. You know, it feels very much like not so much the Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns, but the Kurosawa movies that those were fashioned.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. And the other thing with that is, I feel like, I mean, like, to take a side note, Dredd. Yeah. The 2008 adaptation Dredd, right? That came out with Carl Urban.
Yes.
Part of why I didn't get so into it was that it wasn't very funny. It didn't have, like, not even know about funny. It missed that.
Yeah, it didn't have that other level of a satirical humor to it.
Yeah, it didn't quite get what...
It was played too straight.
Yeah, it was played a little too straight for me.
And you're right, that is kind of the beauty of this whole storyline here, is the fact that it's not laugh out loud funny, but it isn't played straight. Well, it's gritty and it's visceral, but there is a subtle humor to it.
Yeah. And then some not so subtle. A big fat Hutt woman splatting 6 guys isn't subtle. Like
the Hutts are definitely,
He loves drawing those fucking Hutts, though, right? Like how well and how beautiful are those Hutts colored? There's scenes where Hutts are colored in this like bright daylight stuff.
There's your disintegration right there, Raikuda.
Oh
yeah. Like disintegrated from the waist up.
Yeah, that's true.
From toxic waste.
But that's not like a function of his. He didn't shoot him with it.
No, I know, but I'm sure he gets blamed for it.
He got him with.
This is silly right here. This frame right here.
That's part 3.
Probably the most silliest frame in the entire book.
We've transcended into Murder Most Foul. Now, by Murder Most Foul, it seems like about a year takes place in between each story.
Okay.
Like where by the first one he wants, in the first one Gorga wants to marry Orko's daughter, and the second one he has married her.
Yes.
And in the third one, now
she's pregnant.
She's pregnant with a Huttet. A Hutlet. Boba, basically it starts out with Boba being asked by Gorga to assassinate Orko. His wife is pregnant with a Hutlet. Boba plays a Yojimbo like 2 sides against the middle, and Raikuda returns. Raikuda, who we thought was dead, a bunch of stuff collapsed on him. He basically just punches his way out of a pile of stuff.
Yeah, like a bunch of
comes back.
Wood falls on him that they think he's dead. Please.
The story is very, very silly.
Raikuda here looking very much like Marvel's Thing.
Yeah, kind of bit, yeah. And Boba does this whole... This is probably the most Yojimbo of the 3. Because Boba actually fights his way into Orka's inner sanctum and then says, hey, I know that your son-in-law wants to have you killed. He's hired a assassin who can get in here as easily as I did.
Yes.
So what are you going to do about that? You want to pay me more money?
And at this point, there's a lot of silliness going on with Gorga lying to his wife about what he's hired Boba Fett to do. Oh, no, I hired Boba Fett to protect you.
Multiple times in this podcast, I have, not in this episode, but in other episodes, I have referenced that, like, I believe Cam Kennedy had drawn a Jabba the Hutt series. Well, I've since researched that there was a Jabba the Hutt miniseries. Yeah. It was not drawn by Cam Kennedy, but it's because I read this story that's so Hutt-centric that's like...
Very Hutt-centric.
That's like, this is a Jabba the Hutt story. Or not Jabba. This is a Hutt story as much as anything else.
Well, that plays into my whole thought of the entire omnibus. If you're going to do an omnibus of Boba Fett, you're not doing the stories of Boba Fett. You're doing the stories of the people who have hired Boba Fett. Because telling the Boba Fett story, that dilutes it.
I don't think that's true.
I think it is. I think if we get a Star Wars movie where we know everything about Boba Fett, like it takes away the mystery and.
Well, I guess what you could point at to support your argument,
would
be Wolverine. Wolverine, greatest character of my generation. He was like the best you could ever have. And then they did Wolverine Origins, and
it takes away from it.
It did take away.
I can't speak to it. I'm not a Wolverine fan.
I mean, to me, he was.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so I can feel what you're saying, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of great stories that could be told. Also,
I think,
and the Clone Wars has proved that, like,
it has proved that. I think that
And but they did it a great way by not showing him in the armor.
Well,
it was easier to accept because he wasn't Boba yet.
Let me bring up this. You know, everyone is kind of well, not everyone, but a lot of people are talking about, you know, how Disney has destroyed the EU and, you know, completely wiped it away. Let's talk about that for a second. Like, the EU has not gone away. We're still talking about it. The books are still being published. You can still go out and buy them. They're still making money off the EU. It's just called Legends now. Like, it's not gone away. They're making money off of it. So if they're making money off of it, it's still there.
Oh, yeah.
But what the EU has become, not become, what it's always been, is research and development for the real story.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right? So what we have here is almost 500 pages of Boba Fett stories. Okay?
Yeah.
That they're saying, we're not going to use them. We're not going to use them for...
No one said that, Ron.
Well, they're saying we may or may not use them.
Yeah.
Okay? But they're not canon. So we're not going to use them in whole. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But they're there, and I would guarantee you that, you know, you and I sit around and talk about Star Wars for a couple hours every week, and we're dissecting these things, well, and we're not getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
Unless, folks, you want to give us money. But the folks that are getting paid to do this, the story group, I'm sure they probably know these stories inside and out. I would hope that they do.
I would wonder. I don't know. The thing is, here's the thing about these stories, Ron. They're very much of their time.
Right.
Like, they're great, but they're very much of their time.
So is Star Wars.
Well, yeah, but, like, that's the thing. Is like, you always got to move forward, you know?
Right, but...
Like,
yeah.
I
would wonder how much the story group is paying attention. Like, we know...
Here's what I would question.
We know that you have the historian, the... Chi guy, I forgot his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pablo Hidalgo. Like, you have these guys, I forgot the guy who's the historian, Rinsler.
Yes.
Right? You have these guys. Like, they've lived this. Like, they've gone through this entire period.
Yeah.
Where the EU was, you know, not canon, but there was nothing else. So, yeah, I guess it's canon. It could be canon. Right? Like, they know this stuff like the back of their hand, I would think.
I mean, I got to tell you, man.
There's fans out there that know it better than us.
We should come back to this at the end of the episode, but let's do it right here.
Yeah.
I would say about this, like, unless you're drawing or coloring a Star Wars story,
yeah,
why would you need to reference these? Like, if you're going to reference any of them, Twin Engines of Destruction, maybe. But the rest of it's like, well, why don't you just watch Yojimbo and watch, you know, Fistful of Dollars, you know, rather than getting this other story? Like, what's... I don't want to shit on John Wagner. I think he does a great job.
I'm not saying that anyone's trying to do that.
Like,
I just think that, like, it's out there and it has Star Wars name on it. Like, I would think that this is like what we're doing by going through these, you know, books bit by bit and dissecting them is like Star Wars 101.
Well, yeah, what I would say is just, hey, man, it's Star Wars Legends. If you know who you are if you're listening to this. You like Star Wars. If you like Star Wars, you like Boba Fett, this is a great place to get some great Boba Fett stuff.
I mean,
you know?
I would say this. I would say that maybe the story group is, you know, going off and creating their own stories, and it's not the storyteller's job to be like, oh, I know what happened in, the Fat Lady Swings, page
whatever
15,
yeah,
right? Like, it's not their job.
No,
but there's a fact checker. That is going through and being like, oh, your storyline here that you wrote it's kind of similar to this. Do you want it? I don't know.
I doubt it.
I don't know. I guess my question is I don't know enough about how this story group works.
I think we need to get to a deeper issue here, Ron. I feel like you have some anxiety over how they're going to be crafting these new stories.
I do. I do. I think that if you're going to create a Boba Fett story, I think that it has to be handled in a way where, for me personally, I like this omnibus because it doesn't. It tells, like we said, 500 pages, almost 500 pages of Boba Fett stories without giving away the mystery.
Okay, Ron. Well, let me just run through the last story here, and then I will come back to that point.
Okay.
But do keep that in mind.
I will.
Last story is written by John Suicide Squad Ostrander, and with art by Cam Kennedy. Much like the Cam Kennedy story you covered, he doesn't color himself in this, and boy, it does show. Yeah. Same colorist, Chris Blythe. Ostrander also created the series Grimjack, which very much fits the dirty lived-in sci-fi vibe.
Okay.
Basically, this is Boba going after Nazi concentration camp guys.
Yeah,
the Empire.
This is basically
straight up.
Yeah, you have two guys who've basically kind of tortured this entire captive world.
Well, it's
of creatures.
They have a basically free-floating prison camp,
which is very, very Cam Kennedy-like. These very cubist.
Yep. Well, yeah. In terms of it being a giant cube.
Well, yeah, not cubist like the artwork, but very cube-like forces of
big blocky
machinery.
Yeah. Very, very
that hover just above the surface of the world.
The place is called. It's one of those crazy bunch of consonants names. Azrach is the camp. It's ran by Admiral Miratork and Dr. Linus Mirth.
Yes.
Miratork is committed to the Emperor's vision of cleansing the galaxy of all but humans.
Very
nowadays
Nazi-like.
It all makes sense because we get that now because the Emperor was from Naboo and had the Gungans. Who wouldn't want to kill all non-human life?
Yeah, right. I like how the rebel forces in this are very downplayed.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like they come in, they do that, they kind of free these people, but then they're like, yeah, whatever.
So basically, a concentration camp survivor comes to Boba saying, I want these guys killed, I was in their camp, and he says to him, and this is a quote, Torque obeyed orders. And Boba, by the way, this is 10 years after the Battle of Yavin.
This is the point I want to make a point of earlier.
Okay.
This is after Boba is basically been swallowed by a Sarlacc.
Yep.
Been escaped the Sarlacc. Has now been foiled by Han Solo numerous times.
Yes.
His reputation is waning. And that is the price that the person who hires Boba Fett is saying he has to pay. Is like, you need to do this job to just earn your reputation back.
Is that kind of in the comic?
Yeah, totally.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like, look, you're not the Boba Fett you used to be. I don't have the money to pay you, so do this job so that you can earn your reputation back.
And they kind of play him like that. He plays like a Gran Torino-esque Clint Eastwood. Like if the other one was a Fistful of Dollars Clint Eastwood, this is the Gran Torino.
Sure.
He's very the way he's very monosyllabic. He talks in short clip sentences.
Right.
Very different from every other story.
Right.
And the quote he says when brought with this case is, Torque obeyed orders, Mirth obeyed Torque. No wrong. It's an interesting worldview Boba has there.
Sure.
He's saying hey, Torque obeyed the Empire and Mirth obeyed Torque, so it just was what it was. But
here's another one I just want to point out. Very, very, very cinematic looking frame. Looks like Boba Fett is. It looks like he's in the rain, but it looks like he's just on a comm.
Yeah.
Right. And Boba Fett's line: "Want Torque, want Mirth. Rest can go, or die."
Oh, dude, that one's nothing. The best is... Yeah, we got a great one coming up here. Okay. So basically these guys have started the death camp again, and that's why they want Boba to help them out. Boba agrees. They also randomly have a lightsaber, and they're totally unhinged at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're killing people for no good reason. They basically say as much. And Boba is so curt throughout the whole thing. Torque has the ship, or the death camp, set to blow up if Boba kills him.
Yes.
And here's Boba's response. Later. Torque goes, what do you mean? Boba responds, escape, hide, find you later, kill you then. And it was like, wow.
No, the response is great. No, I won't spend the rest of my life killing you or hiding from you. Like, turn around. I said turn around. And Boba Fett turns around and shoots him.
Yep.
Like, it's... And
he responds to some prisoners at some point by being like, the prisoner was like, help us! And it's like, more of you than them, help yourselves.
Yeah.
And the prisoner's like, weapons? And it's like, you don't need them.
You don't need weapons.
Yeah.
You got more of them. There's more of them than you.
And it was just a fun story.
I don't quite understand the ending of this one.
Oh, the story is basically like, you're a badass. Great. Like,
no, but does he kill the guy that hired him?
I didn't see it that way, no.
Because...
Maybe so. Let me see that.
Yeah. Like, look at that last page and see if you can make it understand for me, because I'm like, did he just kill the guy who hired him? He brings back the two, Nazis.
It does seem like it, yeah.
And
it's very, very, very weird. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a weird ending. He's
weird
like,
ending.
Here's the proof that I killed the guys you hired. And he's like, I don't need to see the proof. And Fett's like,
yeah.
After all, you are Boba Fett.
I'm going to give this
are you? And Boba Fett's like, yes.
I'm going to give this 3.75 to 4 Caminos.
I will say 3.75
Caminos. Yeah.
I'll go a little bit less than that. I'm gonna go 3.25.
That's fair.
I take points off for that ending being very vague and not really
too vague, hard to read. Agreed.
And also, and this is kind of a nitpick that I've had with Cam Kennedy in the last few issues of the omnibus, is I think like Boba Fett's mask is like the cheekbones are concave.
Uh-huh.
And the way he draws it, the cheekbones feel like they're convex. Like, I don't know what's going on with that profile right there.
That is a little weird.
And he does it consistently, and I'm like, do you not know what Boba Fett's helmet is shaped like? Because you're not you're not drawing it right.
It's interesting. I like the way he draws it.
I like the way he draws it too. It's just one of those things that I kind of pick up on.
I never noticed it until you pointed it out.
The shading is always weird on it. I'm like, it's concave, not convex.
It's consistent, but yeah, it might be different from your
Like there it is again. I'm like,
of course, Ron. This is 10 years after the Battle of Yavin. Might be a different helmet.
God.
EU, baby. Welcome to EU.
Don't be throwing continuity in my face.
Okay, so let's get back to the final sum
Boba
up.
Fett.
Yeah, well, it's true. It might be Jodo Cast. So let's get back to everything.
Why? Because we're running.
Because we're almost at 2.5 goddamn hours.
Boba Fett. People expect this. From
people
Boba
want
Fett.
the Boba Fett.
Yeah.
This is our opening salvo into Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I think it's just to get our minds around it. Now, Ron, earlier you were complaining because you said that you have a gripe on the idea that people are going to try to give a character to this without giving any mind to these stories.
Yes.
Here's my story for that, is that I don't feel like these stories are treading water. They're great, they're fun, they're awesome, but they're not really stories about Boba Fett.
Okay,
right?
I'll agree with you.
They are stories that are trying to fill in gaps until someone gives us a story about Boba Fett.
Okay,
and I think they're a blast and they're awesome, but they're
not.
Yeah, you know, like the Clone Wars really gave us
I
an
agree with
interesting character who I want to know more about.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. As I said, or I was trying to allude to, the stories that make up this omnibus are they're stories about other people that Boba Fett's life interacts with. They're not about Boba Fett.
Yeah, Boba Fett is a force of nature in some of this.
In a way, it's they're fun stories. They're easy reads. It's an easy almost 500 pages to blow through.
Yep.
But also in a way, it's not easy because every time you hit a new story arc, you have to learn about these new characters before you can get to the meat of,
exactly.
Okay, that's who so-and-so is this, and this is what they're doing, and this is their conflict, and blah, blah, blah has to happen to A, to B, to C, to get to... Okay.
No, you're absolutely right.
Comes in,
and that's my biggest problem with
that
these.
That was kind of everything that happened, you know, whether it was Darth Vader in the first series.
That's my biggest problem. Like, that's what. Stop right there. Yeah. That's my biggest problem is that story, that first story, promised a Darth Vader versus Boba Fett, and you just see so much potential there.
Sure.
Like, there's so much potential, even Phantom Menace, pre-Attack of the Clones, just for them to interact. And the problem with all these stories for me is that he never, the problem that Dark Horse ran into with the Star Wars franchise, for me, was that the characters just quit interacting at some point.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
You would get one big storyline every few years, like Dark Empire,
right,
where the characters interacted.
Yes.
And the rest of it was just a bunch of just well, here's a solo story of this character, a solo story of that character. And it was almost like they were afraid to tell a story. You know what I mean?
Well,
and it was funny though because it's ultimately at the end of the day it's all got wiped away anyhow. Anything could have happened.
Is history going to repeat itself with these, single shot stories in the movies?
Well, there you go.
Or are they trying to do, I mean, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to, they're going to take Marvel's lead with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where they're telling single stories that are building towards something greater.
Man, when are we going to see that first Marvel reboot? I mean, RDJ is going to be the one. Iron Man
RDJ is that's the big one. Right?
That's the reboot that's the clock.
Well, if they can, if they got Spider-Man, they can do Spider-Man right. Who cares about Iron Man?
It's funny because no one's clamoring for an Iron Man movie. So
no one is, right.
So maybe they could just skip it over.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Anyhow,
but back to Boba Fett.
Back to Boba. So, I mean, basically, I'm excited to see what they do with Boba.
I am too. I think that...
But maybe that's the lesson to be learned from this EU adventure, is that you can have some fun, anyone can tell a silly, fun riff, right?
Yes.
Well, not anybody. These guys did some great work. I don't want to cut that down. These are fun, great stories.
It was a good read.
But if they're going to make new ones, they need to make them count.
I would say, if they're going to make new ones, look to the past, look to what has been written, not just the big story arcs, but the smaller ones, and learn from what not necessarily mistakes, but just learn what was done and what worked and what didn't.
One thing I can tell them is 1, Boba Fett's great. 2 is classic.
Oh,
well, Jodo cast.
Maybe an army of Boba Fett clones.
Well, yeah, we already had that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
I was pulling a George Lucas on you.
Thanks for sticking with us, folks. This was really just kind of a R&D experiment for us to see how we could even talk about Boba.
It was a 2.5 hour experiment.
Jesus Christ!
To talk about Boba Fett.
So I hope you guys stuck with us. Trust us, it'll make for a much better Boba Fett episode coming soon.
That's right, folks. We are Delusions of Granular. If we hadn't mentioned it before, but I think we should. We're learning as we go. We want to.
Let's take a little moment since we have 2 minutes till it's 2:30.
We wanted to, just kind of point out we don't try to know everything. We don't.
Well, we finally reached that critical level where people have started to give
People
us
are gonna
flack about the fact
us.
that we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's part of the thing. You're on the journey with us. We're becoming better fans. We were haters, and you're watching a transformation from being people who hated Star Wars to loving it again.
So hopefully you are along for our ride. We're not going to get everything right, but we're trying to learn as we go and correct our mistakes as we go. So
and feel free to tweet us and email us and let us know when we fuck up.
That's right. We don't have a problem with criticism. We want to know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. So tweet at us, talk to us on Facebook, email us, give us a call, because we are Delusions. Star Wars Granular. And we talk about Star Wars, and we don't hate about Star Wars, and we want you to
respect. Walk. That's a Pantera reference.
Okay, folks. If anything, be granular.
Yeah, fuck yeah.